Chapter 9-10. Then he'll beat you, stupid. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't spout nonsense. Qin Wenjing quickly explained, I was just curious about how capable you are. The facts have proven that you're indeed powerful. Flattery won't help. Give us back the cowpox vaccination method. We won't give it to you anymore. Qin Wenjing was speechless. Do you think this is children playing house? How can you take it back? Yundong, that's where you're wrong. The cowpox vaccination method is a good thing for the country and the people. Do you know how many people it can save if it's made public? This is a good deed, merit, and a huge matter that saves lives. How can you take it back? Besides, Xiao Qingyuan has already told me. I remember it in my mind. How can you take it back? When he said the last sentence, he was even a little proud. A genius was indeed a genius. He remembered everything Xiao Qingyuan had told him clearly. Gu Yundong gritted her teeth in hatred. It was not that she was unwilling to give Qin Wenjing this thing. She was angry that Qin Wenjing had known about it long ago but did not tell them. Did he know how long they had been on tenterhooks? This bastard. You've memorized it, haven't you? Then I'll beat you silly and see how you'll remember it. As Gu Yundong spoke, she grabbed the brush on the desk and threw it at him. Qin Wenjing hurriedly stood up and took a few steps back. However, Gu Yundong refused to give up. She grabbed the book on the table and threw it at him. Qin Wenjing cried out in heartache, You can't throw this away. This is the only copy. Hey, this is a purple brush. It's very expensive. That's a painting I've been working on for 2 days. Xiao Qingyuan, stop her. As expected, she wanted to beat him silly and destroy the things that he loved the most. Wouldn't he be so angry that his head hurt and he would go silly? Xiao Qingyuan saw that Qin Wenjing was calling him. He paused for a moment and silently walked to the side. He brought over a canvas bucket filled with many paintings and handed it to Gu Yundong. There's more here. Smash him. Qin Wenjing widened his eyes. Xiao Qingyuan, you're helping the evildoer. You deserve this. Qin Wenjing was speechless. He wanted to save his paintings, but Gu Yundong smashed them fiercely, so he could not go forward at all. His heart immediately ached. Gu Yundong, calm down. I was wrong. I promise I won't hide it from you again. Don't smash it. It's broken. Qin Wenzheng's voice became sharper and sharper. Finally, it spread far away and was heard by the students who had already finished class and were resting in the lecture hall. Yunxu thought of how his eldest sister had also come to look for the teacher. Worried that something would happen to her, he hurriedly ran over. Seeing this, the others followed behind him. Soon, the sound got closer and closer, but it was very strange. It seemed to be the sound of the headmaster wailing like a ghost. The headmaster usually cared a lot about his image. How could such a situation happen? Yunxu became even more anxious and started shouting from afar, Big sister, teacher, big sister. Gu Yundong immediately stopped. Then, she flipped her hair and looked like a lady as if nothing had happened. Qin Wenjing was still panting when Yunxu ran to the door of the study. He looked at the mess on the ground and his watery eyes instantly widened. Sister, what happened? Did someone break into the house? The others also arrived one after another. When they saw this, they immediately looked at each other. Qin Wenjing sneered. He was about to say that the robber was his elder sister, but Gu Yundong had already spoken before him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9-11. Gu Yundong's influence. No one is robbing anyone. Gu Yundong sat on the chair with a smile on her face. Her hair was neat and tidy. She waved at Gu Yunxu. The latter immediately went in obediently. Then, he heard his eldest sister point at the paintings on the ground and say, Your Master Qin suddenly had a cramp in his legs just now. In a moment of desperation, he kicked over the painting bucket and hit the table. These things fell out. Look, they even rolled everywhere. Yunxu, call your classmates in and help Master pick them up. Oh, okay. Gu Yunxu quickly nodded and began to call his friends in. Qin Wenjing heaved a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, Gu Yundong glanced at him and added with a smile, By the way, Your teacher is especially generous today. He said that these paintings, brushes, and paper were originally prepared for you. You can look at them yourself. If you like them, just pick them and bring them back. Yunxu blinked. Huh. Hadn't the headmaster always treasured these paintings? Was he willing to give them away? Qin Wenzheng's eyes almost popped out. His fingers trembled as he pointed at Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong smiled insincerely. Master Qin, your students are all looking at you eagerly. You won't go back on your word, right? Or were you lying to me again just now? She emphasized the word lying. Qin Wenzheng looked at the eager gazes of the students outside the door and then at Gu Yundong, who was holding a painting that was about to be torn apart. He knew that he would definitely bleed today. His heart ached even more. He gritted his teeth and nodded. Yes, that's right. You guys choose for yourselves. As soon as he finished speaking, the students outside the door walked in one after another and cupped their hands to thank Mr. Qin. After Qin Wenzheng nodded with tears in his eyes, he immediately rushed towards the painting he liked. Qin Wenzheng thought to himself, fortunately, these students were taught by him and knew when to stop. Indeed, everyone had chosen one. Yunxu stood up with 3 or 4 paintings. Qin Wenzheng widened his eyes. Why did you take so many? Gu Yunxu said, I want to choose one for my father, one for my elder sister, and one for my mother and younger sister each. I originally wanted to choose one for Niu Dan, Zheng Jia, and Zheng Lu, but I think we can't be too greedy. This is enough. Teacher, you don't have to be polite to me. Qin Wenzheng looked at Gu Yundong in shock and cursed in his heart. Damn it, he had forgotten that a student here was taught by Gu Yundong. It was obvious that Gu Yundong's influence on him was much deeper than his. No, he had to focus on nurturing Gu Yunxu in the future. He had to turn his temper around. However, Qin Wenzheng had forgotten that he was actually a sinister person. If the painting that Gu Yunxu had chosen belonged to someone else, he would have wished for it to be swept away. 15 minutes later, Qin Wenzheng watched as every student left with at least 2 calligraphy paintings or brush and paper. His heart was bleeding. He looked at his empty study and comforted himself. It's fine, it's fine. They're all my students anyway. I'll give them to them sooner or later. I'm not angry. He walked up to Gu Yundong and asked with a dark expression, Are you done venting your anger now? Yes, I'm done. Take the cowpox vaccination method. I want to take it back. Gu Yundong stood up and said, I'll leave first. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:12. This is Yongfu Village? Qin Wenzheng snorted. She should have left long ago. He really could not provoke this woman. In the future, he promised to stay far away from her. For the sake of the cowpox vaccination method they had brought, he would let her off for the time being. As he thought about it, Qin Wenzheng quickly took out the handwritten notebook and started reading it. His eyes grew bigger and brighter. After reading it, he couldn't help but take out his brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. He began to write. After writing 3 pages, he carefully wrapped them with the handwritten notebook. Then he summoned a person and had him send the letter to the capital at full speed. After doing all this, Qin Wenzheng heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't expect Xiao Qingyuan to be so talented in medicine. That guy was indeed a talent. However, Xiao Qingyuan's background was really strange. Gu Yundong was also thinking about this question as she sat in the carriage. Although she said that it did not matter, Gu Yundong still took it to heart. She had never received the love and care of her family since she was young. She had always grown up alone. The feeling of wanting to have a family to rely on was too deep. Even though she no longer had extravagant hopes when she grew up, ever since she came here, she was still touched and surrendered to such warmth. But Xiao Qingyuan had never felt it before. She didn't know what his family was like. Did they want to stay far away like the Tao family, or were they like her father, who had never given up on searching after his wife and children were separated from him? She had never seen it before, but she could not help but think about it. However, Xiao Qingyuan did not care about the search for family, and Gu Yundong would not take the initiative to mention it. If the result was bad, wouldn't it hurt him again? So, let nature take its course. But no matter what, the Tao family's matter would no longer involve Xiao Qingyuan in the future. Gu Yundong expressed that a huge burden had been lifted from his heart. Even if he was schemed against by Qin Wenzheng once, she could let it go. Right? I forgot to tell Qin Wenzheng that I'm coming of age tomorrow. I should have asked him to bring his wife, daughter, and gifts over. Gu Yundong suddenly thought of this and was instantly vexed. Xiao Qingyuan said, Yunshu and Yuanji will definitely explain why they're taking leave tomorrow. In other words, Qin Wenzheng would definitely know. However, after today's incident, it was unknown if he would bring gifts. Gu Yundong was a little regretful. I should have fallen out with him 2 days later. There was an indescribable regret in her tone. Xiao Qingyuan laughed out loud. The lightness in his voice stunned Gu Yundong, and then he laughed as well. The two of them talked as they drove the carriage home. The family was already preparing for her coming-of-age ceremony tomorrow. Gu Yundong looked at her parents, sister, and eldest aunt's busy backs and felt indescribably satisfied. She really hoped that Brother Xiao could have such warmth too. Aunt Ku came over and called her into the room to try her clothes. Where did you go so early in the morning? Why do you look so relaxed on such an important day? Gu Yundong followed her in. Shen Sidian had already come over with a plain dress. Hurry up and try. If there's anything wrong, it's not too late to change it. The Gu family was in high spirits. No one knew that at this moment, 2 carriages were driving into Yongfu village. From one of the carriages, a person poked her head out and looked at the small village in front of her. Her curious eyes darted around. This is Yongfu village? That Miss Gu lives here? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:13. Inquiring. There were 3 women sitting in the carriage. The young woman who had spoken just now had already poked half her head out of the window. She looked at the village path in front of her excitedly and asked curiously and confusedly, why does she live in such a place? Sitting opposite her was Nie Shuang. She pulled her back to prevent her from falling out of the car window. Bao Lingyue, you have to be careful. This road is not smooth and it's different from the prefectural city. If you fall out, you might end up with a mouthful of cow dung. It was so disgusting. Bao Lingyue spat twice and turned her head to ask, aren't you curious about what kind of village Miss Gu is in? I'm curious, but I'm not in a hurry. After Sister Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony, you'll get her to show me around the village. It's better than you looking around aimlessly. What can you tell? You're getting better at bragging. Didn't you say that your sister Yundong is very busy every day? How could she have the time to bring you around the village? Nie Shuang snorted softly and was a little proud. Who asked me to be Sister Yundong's good friend? You don't understand. She treats her friends with sincerity. Bao Lingyue rolled her eyes inelegantly. Madame Dai, who was sitting in the middle, shook her head and laughed. All right, stop bickering. We still don't know where Yundong's house is. Let's ask our fellow villagers first. I'll ask. Bao Lingyue immediately lifted the curtain and her gaze swept across the area outside. Finally, her gaze fell on a simple-looking woman. She waved her hand and called out warmly, Auntie, can I ask you something? Jin Yuexiang saw 2 carriages entering the village and was curious to see if they were here to look for the Gu family again. In the end, they did not expect the carriage to not go to the Gu family. They were instantly happy. Hearing her call, she quickly raised her head and said with a smile, Miss, you're from the city, right? Looking at your aura, you're obviously a young lady from a rich family. This is a true daughter of a wealthy family. You're much better than those pretentious people. Bao Lingyue? She just wanted to ask a question, but she was suddenly flattered. This made her panic. What should she do? Bao Lingyue had always been a friendly person, but in front of Jin Yuexiang, it seemed that she could not get familiar with her. Nie Shuang leaned over and asked with a smile, Aunt, we want to know how to get to the Gu residence, or Gu Yundong's place? Jin Yuexiang's face darkened when she heard Gu Yundong's name. She snorted and turned to leave. They were actually here to look for Gu Yundong again. They were just lost. What kind of luck did that brat have? Most of the carriages coming and going in the village were here to look for her. Were these rich families blind? Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue looked at each other. What was going on? Did they say something they shouldn't have? However, Jin Yuexiang quickly turned back and tried her best to squeeze out a smile. She pointed at the foot of the mountain and said, "The Gu family is there. It's at the foot of the mountain. It's easy to recognize. You'll know at a glance." With that, she hurried away. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue's brows furrowed even more tightly. The two of them sat back in the carriage and said, "This woman looked very unhappy just now, as if Sister Yundong had a grudge against her." Yes. I think so too. Don't tell me she deliberately pointed us the wrong way? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:14. A man and a woman. The more Bao Lingyue thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Look, she was just about to leave when she suddenly changed her mind and pointed out the way without saying a word. It looks like she has some bad intentions. Yes, that makes sense. Nie Shuang nodded. Besides, it's not like Sister Yundong doesn't have money at home. Why would she live at the foot of the mountain? I heard that there are many wild beasts in the Nine Tigers Mountain. If some tigers, bears, and wild boars run out of the mountain, wouldn't the families at the foot of the mountain be the first to suffer? Sister Yundong still has younger siblings. How can she live there? That woman lied to us. She pointed us in the opposite direction. The two of them nodded heavily and finally looked at the silent Madame Dai. The latter also felt that it made sense. Hence, Nie Shuang decided, then let's walk to the middle of the village. We'll ask the other villagers when we meet them. Okay. The two of them stuck their heads out and asked the coachman to continue riding towards the center of the village. This Yongfu village is good, but the road is too difficult to walk. Come, why don't we take the main road? We'll detour out and head for the wider road. We can't. What if we go the wrong way? We won't go the wrong way. Believe me, my intuition is very accurate. Besides, think about it. The Gu family has carriages going back and forth every day. It's not convenient to take the small road. They'll definitely go to the main road. That might not be the case. If the carriage can't pass, you can get down and walk. Madame Daoist's head hurt from the two of them arguing. Seeing that they were all leaning over to look out, she said angrily, "I think what you said makes sense. Why don't we stop asking for directions and see who can convince who? Let's follow what she says." Nie Shuang was taken aback and her eyes suddenly lit up. That makes sense. Lingyue, let's not ask for directions. Come down and look for it yourself. Let's see who finds Sister Yundong's house first. Idea like that. Madame Dai was speechless. The two of them alighted from the carriage, each with a maidservant behind them. Then, they walked in the direction they had chosen. Madame Dai wanted to take back her words, but when she saw that the two of them had already sped away, she choked on her words and could not say anything. She sat in the carriage and did not move. Afraid that something would happen to the two of them in this unfamiliar place, she hurriedly asked the two servants in the carriage behind to follow. She quickly saw another woman and asked for the direction of the Gu family. When she found out that the Gu family was indeed at the foot of the mountain, she could not help but feel vexed. So that woman had not lied to them. Of course, Jin Yuexiang wanted to lie to them, but her son, Liang, was still lying on the bed half dead. He had been beaten up by the Peng family. The people in these two carriages were obviously rich and noble. If they knew that she had lied to them and broke her legs later, how could she live? However, she did not expect that her earlier actions would actually make people directly deny her words. She was very wronged. Madame Dai laughed. After thinking for a moment, she decided to go to the Gu residence first. When the time came, she would ask Yundong to send 2 people to look for the 2 girls. After all, she was not familiar with this place. She did not want to add to Yundong's trouble. At this moment, Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue were using different methods to reach the same destination. Although they had taken 2 different paths, in the end, they both stopped at the entrance of the same house. However, there was a man and a woman standing at the door of this house. From the looks of it, they seemed to be husband and wife. They were even holding gift boxes. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue looked at each other. This was the Gu family's house, so it was definitely not wrong. The two of them were also here to congratulate Gu Yundong on her coming-of-age ceremony, right? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:15. Someone is talking bad about you behind your back. Nie Shuang wanted to go forward and knock on the door, but this couple came first. Since this couple came first, they were naturally the first. The woman said something to her husband. She took a deep breath and went forward to knock on the door. However, after knocking for a long time, the door did not open. Bao Lingyue found it strange. Didn't the Gu family have servants? Why was the gatekeeper so unreliable? He didn't even guard it. Immediately after, the two of them heard the woman call out, "Uncle, Aunt, it's Yulin. Open the door." Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue were stunned. Uncle? Aunt? Were they Gu Yundong's parents? She had never heard of Gu Yundong having any cousins. Didn't Gu Yundong say that she only had one relative, eldest Aunt Gu? Nie Shuang suddenly realized that she must have found the wrong person. She pulled Bao Lingyue along, wanting to leave, but she did not expect to hear the man's impatient voice. That's enough. They deliberately refused to open the door. Your uncle has already said that he has severed ties with you, so why are you still looking for him? Qin Yulan was furious. Why are you still saying such things? If your mother hadn't gone overboard back then and insisted on slandering Niu Dan as a thief, would my uncle have been so cold-hearted and refused to interact with us? Calm, my mother just said it casually. If Gu Yundong had not meddled in other people's business, things would not have turned out like this. Gu Yundong? Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue stopped in their tracks and pricked up their ears to listen. When Qin Yulan saw that there were people around, she quickly came up and pulled Wu Chong. Keep your voice down. Your shop still needs her. As she spoke, she pulled Wu Chong out. It seems that my uncle and aunt are not at home. Forget it, they'll come another day. Wu Chong snorted coldly. I don't think there's a need to come over. Only my mother listens to your nonsense about how good the things in Gus are. So what if they sell well? We don't have the money to buy goods. Your cousin is just a shop assistant in Gus. What can he help with? Look at what he can do. I feel embarrassed to see him ordered around by that hooligan from your village. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue did not hear the rest of the sentence, but they knew that these two people definitely had a feud with Gu Yundong and looked very shameless. The two of them were filled with righteous indignation, but when they thought about how they had found the wrong place, they immediately felt a little depressed. They thought that they should quickly ask the others. It was getting late. At this moment, they heard a laugh from afar. I knew you would walk towards the middle of the village. You must find the village chief's house. In Yongfu village, other than the two houses she and brother Xiao had at the foot of the mountain, the green brick-tiled house of the village chief, Chen Liang, was the most eye-catching. So when Gu Yundong heard Madame Daoist's words, she quickly came out to look for them. Coincidentally, Chen Liang's family was at her house today. As her coming-of-age ceremony was tomorrow, Madame Zhou and Madame Song were both helping her at home. When Chen Liang heard that Gu Dajiang was back, he came to talk to him. After Gu Dajiang persuaded him, he changed his attitude towards Niu Dan. As expected, this kid was becoming more and more motivated in his studies. It was said that he had even received praise from the teacher last time. Chen Liang could not wait to share this matter with him. Therefore, when Chen Yulan and her husband knocked on the door of the Chen family's house, it was not that Chen Liang avoided them. When Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue saw her, they quickly walked up to her. Sister Yundong. Lady Gu. Gu Yundong was rather curious as to why Bao Lingyue had come, but before she could ask, Bao Lingyue spoke first. Lady Gu, I have a big piece of news for you. Just now, two people were bad-mouthing you behind your back. This was big news? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:16. You don't understand. Gu Yundong readily agreed. Who's bad-mouthing me? Bao Lingyue gave her a look as if she were sharing huge gossip. The two people who were standing at the door just now were calling uncle and aunt at the door. They said something about you being a busybody and harming them. I didn't hear anything else. They didn't knock on the door and left with the gift box. They seemed to have said that they would come another day. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Was it worth it for you to be so secretive and say that it was big news? That she was meddling in other people's business? However, Qin Yulan was the only person who called Qin Liang uncle at the door. Didn't Qin Liang cut ties with her? Why did she come looking for him? However, it was obvious that with the nature of the Wu family and Qin Yulan, they definitely had something to ask of Chen Liang. This was really interesting. They had caused Niu Dan to be wrongly accused and expelled from school. He had been pointed at as a thief and his reputation had almost been ruined. Now, they still had the cheek to come to his door. Nie Shuang quickly said, "Sister Yundong, will they find trouble with you?" "No," Gu Yundong said. "I know who they are. Don't worry, they're just two thick-skinned people." Nie Shuang was relieved when she heard this and did not dwell on this matter. She only asked curiously, "Sister Yundong, is this really not your house? Then is your house really at the foot of the mountain?" Gu Yundong nodded. "Indeed. Why was it built at the foot of the mountain? Didn't they say that it was more dangerous there?" "Well, the reason is a little complicated. When we first fled to Yongfu village, there was only one foundation we could choose. In addition, it was quiet and the environment was quite good. It's not dangerous. There are very few wild beasts on Nine Tigers Mountain. They won't go down the mountain easily. Even if they went down the mountain, her house was much sturdier and safer than the other houses in the village." Bao Lingyue suddenly turned to look at her in surprise. "Yundong, did you flee here?" This lady was indeed very friendly. She had changed from Miss Gu to Yundong. Nie Shuang was unhappy when she heard that. "Why are you so surprised? Could it be that you look down on Sister Yundong because she fled here?" "Of course not." Bao Lingyue quickly shook her head. "I'm just shocked. Fleeing to Yongfu village from the famine, wasn't that just last year? It's only been a little more than a year and he already has a workshop and a huge new tea pavilion. Isn't that too amazing?" Nie Shuang was very proud. "Of course, this is my sister Yundong." Gu Yundong was modest. "I was lucky. Come on, praise me again. Don't stand on ceremony." The three of them arrived at the foot of the mountain as they spoke. Looking at the two identical green brick houses, Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyu's mouths were agape. It turned out that the woman had not lied to them. As long as they reached the foot of the mountain, they would be able to recognize Gu Yundong's house at a glance. This house was big and beautiful. It was much better than the previous house. Gu Yundong did not understand their expressions. "Although this house is very beautiful, it's not to that extent, right? The Nie family's and Bao family's houses are bigger than both houses. There are carved trees, painted buildings, fake mountains, and lotus ponds. They're much better than this. You don't understand. You don't understand." The two of them shook their heads in unison. The main reason was that this house was in the village and was surrounded by low mud houses. Suddenly, two identical houses stood in front of them. The visual shock was completely different. Moreover, this house looked different from ordinary green brick houses. It looked energetic. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:17. The difficult Madame Zhou energetic? Can the house be described as energetic? Gu Yundong exhaled and led them through the door. The Gu family was very lively. Everyone took Gu Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony very seriously. Not only did Qin Liang's family come to help, but the Shi couple and Lan Huar also came. Dong Xiulan also brought the children. Gu Yundong had not thought of inviting Madame Dai and Ye Shuang. After all, she had almost forgotten that she was about to become an adult. Moreover, the coming-of-age ceremony was held in Yongfu village. Madame Dai and the rest were in the prefectural city. It would take an entire day to get to the county city by carriage. Not only was it a waste of time, but it was also tiring. But who would have thought that they would still come, and even bring along Bao Lingyue, a lady whom they had only met once. Gu Yundong had guessed that Bao Lingyue had a good relationship with Nie Shuang. After all, She could hear the familiarity in her tone when she spoke of Nie Shuang. However, Gu Yundong did not expect their relationship to be so good. According to Nie Shuang, she happened to bump into her when she and Madame Dai were about to set off. When she heard that they were coming to Yongfu village, she got into the carriage without a word and sent someone home to tell them that she was playing with Nie Shuang. It was said that she often went to the Nie family to look for Nie Shuang. The Bao family was already used to her. But of course, Gu Yundong was happy that they could come. She warmly welcomed them. Madame Dai arrived at the Gu house first and only had time to tell Gu Yundong about Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue. Gu Yundong let Aunt Ku lead her into the house to rest while she went out to look for them. Now that the three of them had arrived, Gu Yundong introduced them to others. She did not mention Madame Dai's identity and only introduced the three of them as seniors and friends from the prefectural city. Nie Shuang immediately hugged her arm and added, "We're especially close friends." Although Chen Liang and the others did not know who they were, they could tell that the three of them were young ladies and madams of wealthy families. Their statuses in the prefecture capital were probably not low. Especially Madame Dai. Chen Liang had seen the county magistrate's wife from afar in the county city before, but this Madame Dai looked even more imposing than the county magistrate's wife. He was a little restrained for a moment, and the others were even more so. Hence, after dinner, Mrs. Zhou secretly came to look for Gu Yundong. She was a little embarrassed to say that she would no longer be the main guest. Gu Yundong was stunned. Women's coming-of-age ceremony was usually attended by the witness, the host, the main guest, the director, the praiser, and so on. The host was her parents. Gu Yundong's first choice for the main guest, who was supposed to be a female senior with virtue, was Aunt Ku, but Aunt Ku rejected her as a widow. Gu Yundong had no choice but to look for Chen Liang's wife. The village chief's wife had the highest status in Yongfu village. Coupled with Gu Yundong's relationship with the Chen family, it was reasonable to invite Madame Zhou as an official guest. Madame Zhou was also very happy at that time, and she patted her chest excitedly and promised that there was no problem. The director was Dong Xiulan. The praiser was Lan Hua. The few of them were already prepared. Why did she suddenly quit? Madame Zhou had no choice. Yundong, I didn't do it on purpose. I just feel that it's more appropriate for you to let Madame Dai replace me. I am especially nervous now. I just feel that it'll mess it up. At the thought of being the main guest in front of a noblewoman like Madame Dai, she felt that she could not comb Gu Yundong's hair during the ceremony. She felt that she would make a mistake. What if she couldn't even speak and Yundong's hair wasn't combed well? What if she embarrassed Yundong? Would Madame Dai laugh at Yundong? Would she look down on Yundong? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:18. Qin Wenzheng's name is familiar furthermore. Chen Liang even told her, I guess this Madame Dai might be the wife of an official. I was talking to Dajiang just now. When Dajiang saw Madame Dai enter, his expression changed. It was as if he respected her very much. The wife of an official? Madame Zhou felt terrible. She was the village chief's wife and could be considered an official's wife in the village. However, how could an official's wife like her, who wasn't even proper, compare to the official's wife from the prefectural city? Her legs went weak. She would definitely not be able to speak tomorrow. She would definitely lose face. Not only would she lose face for Gu Yundong, but she would also lose face for the village chief, Chen Liang. At the thought of this, Madame Zhou could not calm down at all. The pressure was inexplicably great. Gu Yundong did not know whether to laugh or cry. What should she do? How could she change the main guest just like that? This had been confirmed long ago and everyone knew about it. But facing Madame Zhou's pitiful gaze, Gu Yundong was momentarily speechless. Aunt Ke heard the commotion and thought that nothing should happen during the coming-of-age ceremony tomorrow. Otherwise, it would not be good for Gu Yundong. Hence, she agreed. Gu Yundong tried to persuade her a few times. Seeing that Madame Zhou was about to shake off her head, she could only agree. Then she went to look for Madame Dai. The latter understood the whole story and was so surprised that she could not close her mouth. Was she that imposing? Didn't Yundong hide her identity? How could she have known that Chen Liang would make such a guess after seeing her? Unfortunately, he had even told Madame Zhou. However, Madame Dai had been the main guest a few times. She was not unfamiliar with this kind of thing, so there was naturally no problem, and she agreed. However, Madame Dai still felt that she should tell her that she had snatched the original job of Madame Zhou. When Madame Zhou saw that Madame Dai had personally come to apologize, she was immediately flattered. It's not Madame's problem. I'm just too nervous. I'm a country woman who has never seen the world, really. Then she turned around and pinched Chen Liang fiercely. It's all your fault. Tell me what kind of official's wife she is. I'm so nervous. I saw that Madame Dai was approachable and easy to get along with. She even specially came over to comfort me. She doesn't look like an official's wife at all. You're really a jinx. My main guest role is gone. Chen Liang was speechless. What did he do? However, although she said that, Madame Zhou only blamed Chen Liang. If she was really asked to continue being the main guest, she would not agree. Fortunately, other than Madame Zhou, nothing happened to Dong Xiulan and Lan Hua. Although Nie Shuang really wanted to be the praiser, she was too embarrassed to snatch it since the candidate had already been confirmed. The next day was Gu Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony. Xiao Qingyuan was the happiest among them. His girlfriend was coming of age and was one step closer to their marriage. He looked at the hairpin on the tray and felt even more satisfied. He had chosen this hairpin. Contrary to Xiao Qingyuan, Gu Dajiang was the most reluctant one. His daughter had grown up and was one step away from him. Soon she might be married. At the thought of this, he couldn't help but glare at Xiao Qingyuan. His girl had been stolen by this pig. He was so angry, but he still had to maintain a smile. After all, as the host, he had to welcome guests. Early in the morning, many people came to the Gu family to watch the ceremony. Most of them were from the village and it was very lively. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue had learned a lot. So this was what the village's coming-of-age ceremony was like? Qin Wenzheng arrived at midnight and stepped into the door with his wife and daughter. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue, who were standing at the door, were stunned when they heard Qin Wenzheng's name. Why did this name sound a little familiar? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 919. Qin Wenzheng was allegedly killed. Qin Wenzheng? Qin Wenzheng. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue looked at each other and rubbed their eyes hard. Qin Wenzheng? Wasn't he the young genius? The one who got the top scholar title at the age of 18? Is it him? That's right. My big brother really admires him. It's a pity that I heard that he suddenly resigned a few years ago and went missing. But there were also people who said that he was actually... Bao Lingyue lowered her voice. They said that he had actually been harmed. Is it true? It's true. When my elder brother heard the news, he was very sad. I was also very sad. I could not believe the truth. After a long time, I reluctantly accepted it. The heavens are really jealous of geniuses. Bao Lingyue sighed faintly. And think about it, if he had not been harmed with his talent and learning ability, the current emperor would definitely have let him return to the court. I heard that many court officials who were talented and capable but couldn't accomplish their ambitions have been recalled since the new emperor ascended the throne. They have even been placed in important positions. Nie Shuang also knew this news. When she heard this, she glanced at Qin Wenzheng, who had walked in with his wife and daughter, and said, "In that case, this Qin Wenzheng only has the same name as him?" "I think so, but considering his age and appearance, he seems to be as the rumors say." Nie Shuang rolled her eyes. "Let's go and ask Sister Yundong." The two of them entered the room. Gu Yundong sat in the room and waited. She did not have to do anything today. She just had to take a shower and change her clothes before waiting in the inner room behind the east room. Madame Dai was also in the room. When Nie Shuang and Madame Gu entered, Madame Gu happened to enter with her daughter. Qin Wenzheng greeted them outside the door and went to talk to Xiao Qingyuan. Compared to Nie Shuang and the others, Madame Dai knew more. Of course, she knew if Qin Wenzheng was dead or alive. She also knew about his matters in Fengkai County. Previously, Qin Wenjing had even brought his wife and daughter to the Dai residence to visit her husband, so she knew Madame Gu. However, what she did not know was that Qin Wenjing actually knew the Gu family and had such a good relationship. Gu Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony was attended by his entire family. No one was left behind. She turned her gaze outside and happened to see Qin Wenjing talking excitedly with Xiao Qingyuan. She was instantly enlightened. Could it be because the two of them were familiar? Coincidentally, Madame Gu was afraid that her daughter would come back dirty again after running out crazily, so she bid Madame Dai and Yundong farewell and hurriedly chased after her. She could not tell how familiar the two of them were. Therefore, after Madame Gu left, Madame Dai asked curiously, "Yundong, is Mr. Qin Wenjing very familiar with that young Master Xiao?" Thinking about it, she felt that it was possible. Her son had a high evaluation of Xiao Qingyuan, who seemed to be a good talent. Therefore, be it Dai Wenhua or Qin Wenjing, they could become friends with him. For Xiao Qingyuan's sake, it was reasonable for Qin Wenjing to attend Gu Yundong's ceremony. Gu Yundong followed Madame Dai's finger and looked out of the window. Xiao Qingyuan and Qin Wenjing were indeed chatting enthusiastically. They were probably talking about the cowpox vaccination method. Yesterday, Qin Wenjing must have finished reading Brother Xiao's handwritten notebook and had stacks of questions in his heart. Now that they had met, he naturally couldn't wait to ask. Gu Yundong smiled and nodded. Yes, they're quite familiar with each other. Madame Dai asked again, then, how did they meet? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 920. No, I reject. As far as she knew, although Qin Wenjing looked easy to get along with, he actually had a line in his heart. He had always kept a certain distance from others and was not so easy to get along with. Not to mention looking so enthusiastic. Looking at the way he spoke to Xiao Qingyuan, she felt that Xiao Qingyuan was the cold and distant person. Qin Wenzheng's impression in her mind was somehow changed, making her find it unbelievable. Gu Yundong thought about it. How did they meet? She remembered. Qin Wenjing seems to like to eat wild animals. Brother Xiao brought Lu Wei into the mountains to hunt 2 roe deers and gave them to him. That's probably it. Lu Wei also came early in the morning, but he liked fun. The moment he arrived, he brought the children out to play. Madame Dai was enlightened. So that was the case. She had heard from her son that Xiao Qingyuan often went deep into the mountains and even brought him in to hunt, so it was not strange. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue, who had yet to speak, were shocked when they heard their conversation. Auntie, is the Mr. Qin you're talking about the one outside the door? The 18-year-old top scholar? Yes, that's him. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue looked at each other and silently looked at Qin Wenjing, who was speaking at the door, and sucked in a cold breath. Alive. This was Qin Wenjing in the flesh. Today, at this moment at Gu Yundong's house, at Gu Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony, they actually saw the 18-year-old young genius. Excitement, thrill, and an uncontrollable urge to go forward. Bao Lingyue grabbed Nie Shuang's hand tightly and said, "If I tell Big Brother that Qin Wenjing is still alive, he will definitely be very happy. Oh my God, I actually saw Qin Wenjing. I grew up listening to his stories. My brother must be especially envious of me. I have to go to him and tell him about it. Me too. I feel like I'm dreaming now. What should I do? I want to go up and talk to him, but isn't this too presumptuous? I don't think so. She has a wife and a daughter. Let's not ruin their relationship." Yes. That was his wife and daughter just now. His wife is also good-looking. They're simply a match made in heaven. And his daughter is too cute. Gu Yundong was speechless. Were women so good at chasing celebrities nowadays? She felt that the two of them were about to faint. Seeing how excited the two of them were, Gu Yundong finally understood why the two of them could become good friends. Indeed, they were like-minded. Alright, there was also her father. He seemed to admire Qin Wenjing very much. That guy is a sinister and cunning fellow. Don't be deceived by his appearance. Gu Yundong complained in her heart. If not for the fact that she had to maintain her makeup that was done at the cost being dragged out of bed early in the morning, she really wanted to rush up and shake the two of them awake. However, very quickly, this fire of excitement consumed her. Nie Shuang grabbed her hand. Sister Yundong, we're good friends, right? That Mr. Chen is your fiancé's good friend, right? Then can you invite him? No, beg him to write a piece of calligraphy for me? For me. And me. Gu Yundong's expression was cold. Beg him? No, I reject. Seeing that she was unwilling, Madame Dai thought about Qin Wenzheng's personality and was unwilling to make things difficult for her. Hence, she gave the two of them a look. All right, have you forgotten what day it is today? It's almost time. Don't delay, Yundong. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 921. Coming of Age Ceremony. Although Nie Shuang and the others were a little disappointed, they still knew the severity of the matter and quickly shut up. Only then did Madame Dai say in a low voice, "If you really want to meet him, why don't you ask Mrs. Chen? Didn't you see her just now?" Nie Shuang said uncomfortably, "Well, it's not good, right? After all, we're not familiar with Mrs. Chen." Bao Lingyue, who was standing at the side, nodded crazily. Although she was a friendly person, Mrs. Chen was Mr. Chen's wife. She felt that this was too abrupt. What if Mrs. Chen misunderstood them and thought that they had other intentions, and it would backfire? Madame Dai was speechless. Just as she was about to say something, Madame Gu entered. Behind her were Gu Yunke and Qin Anning. The two young girls held hands and had lollipops in their hands. They ran happily to Gu Yundong. "Wow, big sis, you're really good looking today. You're the best." Gu Yundong pinched her little face. "You guys look good too. Sister Yundong, Aunt Ku said that it's time and asked us to inform you." Madame Dai stood up and said, that's right. It's time to go out." Nie Shuang Lingyue, don't just stand here. The coming-of-age ceremony has begun. Everyone quickly got up and went to their positions. When it was time, Gu Dajiang coughed lightly and said nervously, "Today, my daughter, Gu Yundong, will hold her coming-of-age ceremony. Thank you for coming. Now, my daughter, Gu Yundong, will officially begin her coming-of-age ceremony." As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a lump in his throat. His daughter had really grown up. He thought back to when she was just born. Because of an accident, she was born prematurely and almost couldn't be saved. He didn't expect her to grow up in the blink of an eye. Gu Dajiang couldn't help but secretly exhale. Soon, Lan Hua walked forward, washed her hands, and took her place on the west step. Then, Gu Yundong walked out and faced the south. She bowed to the guests and knelt on the witness seat. Then, Madame Dai got up and washed her hands. Dong Xiulan presented her with a handkerchief and a hairpin. Madame Dai walked to Gu Yundong and recited a congratulatory speech. Then, she combed Gu Yundong's hair and put the hairpin on it. After that, the ritual repeated 3 times. After the entire process, even Gu Yundong felt extremely tired. Aunt Ku was the one who arranged the coming-of-age ceremony. If it was a farmer's family, there would not be so many rules. But Aunt Ku felt that Gu Yundong's future would be limitless and she would soar into the sky. Naturally, her coming-of-age ceremony had to be grand. Be it Gu Dajiang or eldest Aunt Gu, they both agreed with this. For a woman, her coming-of-age ceremony was a very important day. If the conditions allowed, she naturally could not treat it casually. After the ceremony, Gu Yundong finally heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she sent the guests off with Gu Dajiang and Madame Yang. When most of them had left, she returned to her room. After resting for a while, she changed into a simple dress again. Just as she was about to go out, a few familiar voices came from outside. She focused slightly and quickly distinguished the voices. This was Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue talking. However, the two of them only passed by Gu Yundong's room and quickly left. Hearing them mention Qin Wenzheng again, Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Could it be that they were really going to ask Qin Wenzheng for his calligraphy? She couldn't help but laugh. Go for it, fangirls. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 922. Don't do such a demeaning thing. However, While the fangirls were excited and their eyes were filled with desire, they did not dare to go forward and talk to Qin Wenjing, let alone ask him for calligraphy or paintings. The two of them could only hide in a corner and look in Qin Wenzheng's direction, muttering softly. When Lu Wei came over, he happened to see them putting their heads against each other, looking sneaky. Could these two people be plotting something? Were they trying to do something bad during Gu Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony? Lu Wei recalled the last time he went to the Wang family's banquet with his elder sister. Those women had put on a big show that made him gasp in amazement. He completely understood what it meant to scheme. His sister had told him that these women from the big families fought all day long and liked to make a fuss on such big days. Wasn't today Gu Yundong's big day? These two women said that they were Gu Yundong's friends, but he knew that Gu Yundong had never invited them. They had come uninvited. Lu Wei's expression instantly became serious. He quietly leaned toward them and listened. Then he heard their nervous and suppressed voices. "Come, Master Qin is indeed a talented man. No wonder the late emperor wanted him to be a royal prince. I want to ask him for a piece of calligraphy. Really, I only want one. I have no regrets in this life. I don't dare to go forward. I don't dare either. It's not easy for me to meet him in person. Why can't I take a step forward?" Lu Wei understood and immediately came to a realization. He knew that Qin Wenjing was very popular, especially among women. It was said that when he was the top scholar and rode on a horse to travel the streets, more than half of the women in the capital had thrown flower handkerchiefs and pouches at him. They could even smash Qin Wenjing until his entire body was covered in bags. Unexpectedly, other than the capital, he even described as divine in cities where he had never been seen, making the women even crazier. The two people in front of him were. "You want Qin Wenzheng's collection?" Lu Wei's sudden voice caused Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue to be stunned for a moment before they turned their heads around. Nie Shuang naturally knew Lu Wei. The last time Gu Yundong's shop opened for business, Lu Wei drank a large cup of pearl milk tea and left a deep impression on her. Later on, they met twice in the prefecture capital's Xianxia restaurant. Now that she heard this question, she immediately remembered. Previously, Sister Yundong had said that Qin Wenjing and Xiao Qingyuan knew each other. It seemed to be this young Master Lu who pulled the strings. In that case, Lu Wei was also very familiar with Mr. Qin? Nie Shuang quickly said, "Can you help us get to?" "Sure, just you wait." Lu Wei was very generous and agreed immediately. The two of them looked at him gratefully. Lu Wei tidied his hair and immediately walked towards Qin Wenjing. However, not long after, he returned with a dejected expression. "Didn't it work?" Nie Shuang asked. Lu Wei nodded and sighed. "Brother Qin is not willing." Sigh. Bao Lingyue was very disappointed. Nie Shuang, on the other hand, looked at Lu Wei in surprise. She didn't expect this young master of the Lu family to admit it so straightforwardly. Didn't men usually care about their face? Why didn't he make up for it at this time? Bao Lingyue suddenly thought of something and quickly said, "Isn't young Master Xiao familiar with Lord Qin? You are also familiar with young Master Xiao. Why don't you ask young Master Xiao for help?" Lu Wei looked up and glanced at her. Xiao Qingyuan wouldn't do such a demeaning thing. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 923, Sister Yundong, be euphemistic. Bao Lingyue. Nie Shuang, are you scolding us or yourself? But soon, Lu Wei's eyes lit up. Yes, we can look for Gu Yundong. She must have a way. Nie Shuang said, "We've thought about it too, but today is Sister Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony. We can't trouble her. She's been busy for the entire day and is resting in her room." "How is she resting? Isn't she there?" Lu Wei pointed behind them. Nie Shuang turned around and saw Gu Yundong walking over. She seemed to be in good spirits. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue looked at each other and hurried forward. They grabbed Gu Yundong's arms from both sides. "Sister Yundong." Gu Yundong shuddered. "Speak properly." "Calm, Sister Yundong, we want Mr. Qin's calligraphy and paintings." "Sister Yundong, go and look for Master Xiao. He will definitely listen to you and help. okay? Gu Yundong was really afraid of them. Alright, I'll go. She pulled her hand out forcefully, returned to her room, and came out with a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. Then she walked towards Qin Wenjing. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue were stunned and quickly said, Sister Yundong, young Master Xiao is over there. Gu Yundong nodded. I know, but didn't you want Qin Wenzheng's calligraphy? But Gu Yundong quickened her pace and arrived in front of Qin Wenjing in a few strides. Master Qin, give me 2 pieces of calligraphy. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue, aren't you being too direct? Be tactful, be tactful. What if Mr. Qin gets angry? Qin Wenjing glanced at the brush and paper in her hand and snorted. Nie Shuang and Qin Shuang no longer held any hope. As expected, Mr. Qin was unhappy. You still have the cheek to ask for my calligraphy? You should calculate how much you gave away yesterday. Your brother alone took 4 of my paintings, not to mention the other students. My entire study's calligraphy and paintings were ruined by you. If I wasn't magnanimous, I would have cut ties with you. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue? What did they hear? Gu Yundong resisted the urge to roll her eyes. He was magnanimous? He was clearly the one who schemed against her and did not dare to retaliate. Now, he was talking as if he was very noble. How shameless. It was as if she really cared about his calligraphy. Just as she was thinking, Madame Guest's voice came from the other side. Husband, aren't we leaving? Qin Wenjing quickly replied, Well, leave immediately. Wait for me for a moment. With that, he took the tray from Gu Yundong's hand and turned to walk to the table at the side. Then, he muttered as he wrote, On account that today is your coming-of-age ceremony, I won't argue with you. Then, he wrote down 2 lines of words, all of which were blessings for the good and healthy. After he finished writing, he blew on it and handed it to Gu Yundong. Take it. I'll go back first today. After taking a few steps, he stopped and turned around. By the way, I heard from your father that he plans to take the elementary scholar examination after the new year. It'll help you solve the problem of the elementary scholar endorsement. However, it's not convenient to eat and drink in the examination hall. When you have time, think about how to make something delicious for your father. Gu Yundong nodded. Thank you. Qin Wenjing left. Gu Yundong turned around with 2 pieces of calligraphy in her hand and met the dumbfounded expressions of Nie Shuang and the others. You guys, what's wrong? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 924. She lost. Nie Shuang swallowed his saliva and looked at Gu Yundong, then at the calligraphy in her hand. Then she turned to look at the door. Qin Wenzheng's carriage was getting further and further away. Bao Lingyu's eyes were wide open as well. Even Madame Dai, who was standing at the side, had a look of astonishment on her face. She had heard what Qin Wenjing and Gu Yundong said just now and felt that it was unreal. Even when facing her master, Qin Wenjing was polite and steady. But when facing Gu Yundong, it was as if his composure did not exist at all. Be it his tone or expression, there was a hint of indulgence. It was as if she was his younger sister. He should take care of her and try his best to satisfy any requests. After a long time, Nie Shuang asked, Sister Yundong, are you very familiar with that Lord Qin? This familiarity was not like what they had guessed. It was not based on Xiao Qingyuan, the middleman. Gu Yundong nodded naturally and asked, Will he come to my coming-of-age ceremony if he's not familiar with me? Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue both covered their faces. That's right, that's right. How could they have overlooked this? If he only had a good relationship with Xiao Qingyuan, even if Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan were engaged, Qin Wenjing would not have had to come personally to attend the coming-of-age ceremony. At most, he would have asked his wife, Madame Gu, to bring their daughter over. Only when he had dealings with Gu Yundong himself would he be so prudent to bring his family to her door. He did not leave immediately after the coming-of-age ceremony. Moreover, what did Mr. Qin say before he left? He said that she didn't have to worry about Gu Dajiang's exam. It was just that this was a little different from what Nie Shuang and the others had imagined. They had clearly heard that Qin Wenjing was a rather cold and arrogant person, but they could not tell it all just now. That wasn't right either. When he rejected Lu Wei, he was very clean and cold. Gu Yundong did not know what they were thinking. If she could hear them, she would definitely despise them. Qin Wenjing? Arrogant? What did that have to do with anything? Nie Shuang felt a little regretful. If she had known that Gu Yundong and Qin Wenjing were so familiar, she would have taken the opportunity to say a few words to Qin Wenjing. At least her idol would know her. Bao Lingyue was still a little puzzled. Yundong, since you and Lord Qin are friends, then why did you two speak as if you were very resentful just now? Speaking of this, Gu Yundong started to hold a grudge. Because he just tricked me yesterday. Let me tell you, Qin Wenjing is indeed quite good-looking, but we can't judge people by their appearance. Some people are very... Before she could finish speaking, Nie Shuang suddenly exclaimed, "He tricked you? Sister Yundong, you're already so smart, but Mr. Qin actually tricked you." As expected, a genius is indeed a genius. A man like Mr. Qin, who is not only handsome but also talented, is really rare in the world. That's right. He can trick Yundong. His brain is indeed very useful. Gu Yundong was speechless. Was that the main point? Was that it? Isn't your fan filter too strong? She wanted to say that Qin Wenjing was sinister and cunning. You two ignorant girls, don't be deceived by his appearance. In the end, you actually interpret sinister and cunning as talented and meticulous? She was the one who had lost. Goodbye. Gu Yundong stuffed the two pieces of calligraphy into their arms and returned to her room. She didn't want to talk. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 925. Visit after the coming-of-age ceremony, Gu Yundong felt much more relaxed. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue finally calmed down after being excited for a long time with Qin Wenzheng's calligraphy. They did not plan to leave yet and asked Gu Yundong to bring them around the village. They would rest for 2 days before returning to the prefectural city. It was the same for Madame Dai. It was rare for her to come out, and it was quite quiet in this countryside. For the past 2 days, she felt refreshed, especially when it came to what she wanted to eat. She could go to the backyard to pick it herself. This feeling of doing it personally made them feel exceptionally novel. As for Gu Dajiang, he didn't dare to slack off at all because he had to take the preparation scholar exam in February. Although he was confident and Qin Wenjing said that there was no problem, he was still crazily absorbing all kinds of knowledge. Therefore, he still had to return to the prefecture capital's Tianhai Academy. On the other hand, Madame Yang and Kiki stayed behind. It would be the new year in a month or so. There was no need to travel back and forth on such cold days. Gu Dajiang would have felt sorry for them. Therefore, on the morning of the second day of the coming-of-age ceremony, only Gu Dajiang, who was going to continue studying at Tianhai Academy, and Gu Dafeng, who was going back to take care of Bianhan, left the Gu family. After the two of them left, Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue held Gu Yundong's hand, wanting her to show them around. It was rare for them to come here, so Gu Yundong naturally had to play the role of a host. She brought them around the village. Actually, the villages were similar. However, because the lives of the people in Yongfu village were getting better and better, many houses had been renovated and looked much newer. As such, the village richer than the other villages. However, this road, after Nie Shuang almost sprained her ankle for the second time, she finally could not help but sigh. This road is a little bad. If only it was as flat as the road in the prefecture capital. She had almost stepped on dog excrement just now. Gu Yundong lowered her eyes and looked at the uneven road. She seemed to be in deep thought. Then, she brought the three of them to the workshop to take a look. Nie Shuang was very excited. Your workshop is interesting. It's actually divided into several areas. It's simple and clear. It looks clean. Gu Yundong was not worried that they would learn it after a rough tour. The method of jam and preserved fruits was not a secret. Many people knew it. Her shop's business was good because of the different ingredient. At least for now, no shop sold products made of white sugar like hers. However, Gu Yundong did not bring them to the area where the white sugar was produced. She only let them take a look at the finished product. However, Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue were still extremely excited to see so much white sugar at once. Their eyes lit up and they almost pounced on it. Of course, they also had white sugar at home, but there was very little of it, unlike here, where there were piles of it. After visiting the workshop, the three of them were very satisfied. After staying in Yongfu village for 2 days, Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue even wanted to enter the mountains, but were firmly rejected by Gu Yundong. What mountain? They could sprain their ankles just by walking along the village road, yet they dared to enter the mountains? She was probably going to carry them back. Nie Shuang pouted. I've climbed mountains before. Mountains with steps, right? Gu Yundong glanced at her. Nie Shuang was very disappointed that her wish was not fulfilled. However, she had already stayed here for a few days. It was indeed time to go back. The next morning, the three of them packed their bags and left Yongfu village happily with a lot of stuff that Gu Yundong had given them. Gu Yundong sent them to the village entrance. When she returned, she looked up and saw a messenger pigeon flying over her head. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 926, Rejected, Not Going a Messenger Pigeon? Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows and followed the messenger pigeon. As expected, it stopped outside Xiao Qingyuan's courtyard. She walked in directly. The messenger pigeon was indeed standing outside the courtyard. A Mao was feeding it with the millet. When he saw Gu Yundong enter, he immediately greeted her. Miss, are you here to look for young master? Young master is in the study. Yes, I'll go in and take a look. Gu Yundong reached out to touch the messenger pigeon before continuing inside. Xiao Qingyuan had indeed just opened a letter from the pigeon's leg. There was a large number of words written in the letter. Most of them were praise for him, while the other half conveyed a message: let him go to the capital. This pigeon belonged to Dr. Song Dejiang. Xiao Qingyuan had never met Dr. Song, but they knew each other's existence. Gu Yundong had seen that Xiao Qingyuan was talented in medicine and had a photographic memory of the medical book that Dr. Song had given him. He developed a good medicine for internal injuries according to the medical book. After other medicines were successful, Gu Yundong wrote a letter to Song Dejiang and asked him to send several medical books. Later on, Xiao Qingyuan opened his own pharmacy. He directly contacted Song Dejiang about medicine. After a while, the two of them became familiar with each other. Gradually, Song Dejiang admired Xiao Qingyuan even more. This messenger pigeon was the way the two of them communicated. Recently, Xiao Qingyuan had been researching on the cowpox vaccination method to deal with smallpox. He had not told Song Dejiang about this before because Yundong had racked her brains to think of a way to make a contribution to the emperor. Before he succeeded, he had to keep it a secret. However, after they reported this matter to Qin Wenzheng a few days ago, the latter quickly sent the letter to the capital. Since the emperor knew, Song Dejiang naturally knew too. As a result, he immediately sent a pigeon to ask Xiao Qingyuan to make a trip to the capital where the two of them would discuss the cowpox vaccination method in detail. However, after Xiao Qingyuan finished reading the letter, he frowned. After a pause, he took a brush and paper from the side with a cold expression and wrote a single word on it. No. Just as he finished writing, Gu Yundong came in. When she saw such a huge word on the paper, she was stunned for a moment and asked, "What's wrong?" Xiao Qingyuan didn't hide it from her. Song Dejiang asked me to go to the capital, but I rejected him. It would be the new year in a month or so. He was not willing to go to the capital at this time. It was so cold that he could not even make it back for the new year. After saying that, he folded the paper and compressed it into a small roll. Then, he asked a Mao to bring the messenger pigeon in and stuffed the roll into the small bamboo tube tied to the messenger pigeon's leg. The paper was too big and it took some effort to stuff in. Gu Yundong silently turned her head. "Brother Xiao, you only wrote a single word. Actually, there was no need to use such a large piece of paper." "Really?" When Song Dejiang received such a thick scroll later, he would think that you had a lot to say. When he opened it and read it, he would definitely jump in anger. After stuffing the paper in, Xiao Qingyuan let go. A Mao was about to go out when there was a sudden sound outside. The three people in the study turned around and saw another messenger pigeon on the windowsill, jumping. There was also a small bamboo tube tied to its leg. Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan looked at each other. This is still Dr. Song's messenger pigeon, right? Yeah. Mao quickly carried the messenger pigeon over and took out the note from the bamboo tube. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 927. Advice. Xiao Qingyuan frowned. As expected, it was from Song Dejiang. As if he knew that Xiao Qingyuan would reject his previous letter, he went straight to the point. Kid, the cowpox vaccination method is very important. It concerns the lives of the people in the world. You have to come to the capital. Even if you reject me now, someone will definitely come to invite you personally in a few days. They'll wait for you here. Don't worry, a house has been prepared. You'll have a place to stay the moment you come. Xiao Qingyuan frowned tightly. Indeed, one after another. He should have known that once the cowpox vaccination method reached the capital, he would not be able to stay out of it. Gu Yundong dragged Qin Wenjing out and whipped him again in her heart. If he had told them earlier that Xiao Qingyuan was not the third young master of the Tao family, they would not have revealed the cowpox vaccination method at this time. Perhaps when things became clearer, or when they had some ideas, they would send a pigeon to Song Dejiang and give him a headache. Both of them knew that Xiao Qingyuan's trip to the capital was inevitable. Gu Yundong was reluctant. When are you leaving? Xiao Qingyuan was even more unhappy. Then let's wait for someone to invite us before leaving. Gu Yundong nodded. The two of them originally thought that this would take at least a few days. They did not expect that the next afternoon, Qin Wenzheng would bring 2 guests to the Xiao family. Looking at the travel-worn appearance of the two of them, he knew that they must have rushed over. It seemed that the current emperor really valued this important discovery. That made sense. If it was confirmed that the cowpox vaccination method could prevent smallpox, it would be a political achievement for him. In the future, it would probably be a very heavy mark in history. Moreover, for the civilians and the royal family, smallpox was fatal. No one could do anything to it. Since ancient times, many royal princes had died from smallpox. Therefore, the emperor was very anxious. Not to mention that it was not the new year yet. Even on the first day of the new year, Xiao Qingyuan had to make a trip to the capital. Gu Yundong had no choice but to prepare Xiao Qingyuan's luggage. Gu Yundong did not know how long this trip would take. For a moment, she wanted to go with them. The atmosphere between the two of them was a little silent. Qin Wenjing couldn't help but touch his nose and say softly, "Don't worry, it definitely won't be long." Although it's a long way to the capital, hasn't Xiao Qingyuan already succeeded? As long as he explains what he knows clearly, those imperial physicians will be busy with the rest. Gu Yundong could not help but glare at him again. Then, she turned around and continued packing Xiao Qingyuan's things. She prepared a lot of food for him and reminded him worriedly, "When you're outside, don't eat anything random, especially those hard and stiff steamed buns. Don't eat them. It's not good for your stomach. Even in the wild, you should at least heat them with fire and eat them when they're hot." Xiao Qingyuan looked at her back and felt like his wife was helping him pack his things when he was going out. Hearing her voice, even his heart felt warm. "Also, you have to be careful. Bring your bow, arrow, and dagger with you. Didn't you get some poison and knockout powder? Remember to keep it well. If you encounter someone with good martial arts, fight if you can. If you can't, use the poison. If the poison doesn't work, escape quickly. In short, your life is most important." Qin Wenjing couldn't stand it anymore. They were only going to the capital, not to participate in the martial arts conference. Shaking his head, he quickly left. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 928. Let's get married. As soon as Qin Wenjing left, Xiao Qingyuan went forward and hugged Gu Yundong from behind. "Don't worry, I'll take good care of myself. You too. Wait for me at home. If you encounter anything that you can't resolve, look for Qin Wenjing. I'll take care of myself and come back as soon as possible. Also, the capital is big and has many good things. He'll also ask around to see if there's any news of Bai Musi. Gu Yundong lowered her head slightly and hummed. There are many high-ranking officials and nobles in the capital, and the waters are very deep. I wonder if anyone will find trouble with you. However, Qin Wenjing will definitely make arrangements for this. You don't talk much, but you still have to build a good relationship with the two people who escort you along the way. Ask more about the situation in the capital. You have to know what to do. Xiao Qingyuan's eyes lit up. He enjoyed her nagging. In the past, he really didn't talk much and almost didn't interact with anyone. Now he had changed. He had someone he cared about and he had opened a shop. As long as he was willing, basic socializing weren't difficult for him. Also, Gu Yundong suddenly became fierce as she spoke. I heard that the women in the capital are very bold. When they meet a good-looking man, they can't help but give him a pouch or a handkerchief. There are also those who are shrewish and snatch others. You have to protect yourself, understand? You're not allowed to flirt with anyone. Qin Wenjing was an example. How popular was he back then? It was said that he even had a few bumps because of the pouches that were thrown at him. In her heart, Xiao Qingyuan was much more handsome than Qin Wenjing and was very eye-catching. Xiao Qingyuan turned her around, held her face, and kissed her heavily. His eyes were filled with smiles. Okay. Gu Yundong pursed her lips and could not help but laugh. By the time he was done packing, Xiao Qingyuan had 2 big bags. He did not know what Gu Yundong had stuffed into them, but they were bulging. One could tell that it was a lot. Gu Yundong thought that it was too little. It was a pity that he did not have a spatial storage. Otherwise, she would not have to work so hard. After everything was prepared, the few of them rested in the Xiao house for the night. The next morning, Xiao Qingyuan brought Mao and left with the people from the capital. The Gu and Zheng families had woken up early to send him off. Even Kiki was rubbing her eyes in Madame Yang's arms. She waved at Xiao Qingyuan and said in a childish voice, "Brother Xiao, have a safe trip. Kiki will miss you." Xiao Qingyuan nodded and scanned everyone's faces. Finally, his eyes landed on Gu Yundong. "He'll be back as soon as possible." Gu Yundong nodded. Xiao Qingyuan took a deep breath and did not say anything else. He led the horse to the entrance of the village. The rest of the Gu family sent them off at the entrance, but Gu Yundong walked a few more steps and only stopped at the village entrance. Seeing that Xiao Qingyuan was about to mount his horse, she suddenly said, "Wait." Xiao Qingyuan was stunned and came back. "What's wrong?" Gu Yundong looked behind him. Mao was a sensible person. The other 2 also understood and immediately retreated a distance, leaving them alone. However, one of them reminded him, "Young Master Xiao, make it short. We have to set off as soon as possible." Xiao Qingyuan nodded. "Got it." After the 3 of them were far away, Gu Yundong took a deep breath and looked up at him with a smile. "When you come back from the capital, well, get married." Xiao Qingyuan widened his eyes and looked at her in disbelief. What did you just say? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 929. Something's wrong. Gu Yundong pursed her lips and repeated, "When you come back, well, get married." "All right." Xiao Qingyuan's eyes seemed to be emitting light. It was so intense that it almost swallowed Gu Yundong. He reached out and hugged her tightly. "This is what you said. Don't go back on your word. I'll come back as soon as possible." "Okay, be careful." Mao, who was far away, widened his eyes. Quickly, split up. It was fine if they were hugging at home, but this was outside, and it was in the village. There were people coming and going at the entrance of the village. You would probably be drowned by saliva. He quickly turned his head to look left and right. Fortunately, other than the 2 guards beside him, no one else passed by. However, the 2 guards were also shocked. Xiao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong quickly separated. He no longer hesitated and suddenly turned around to jump on the horse. "Let's go." After saying that, he shook the reins first and the horse raised its hooves and rushed out. The 3 people behind him were stunned and hurriedly got on their horses to chase after him. Why was he suddenly so eager to leave? Wasn't he reluctant to leave just now? Gu Yundong was still standing at the entrance of the village. watching the few of them walk further and further away until they completely disappeared. After a long time, there were already villagers walking back and forth around her. They even greeted her. Only then did Gu Yundong move her stiff body and turn to walk into the village. She was still not used to returning to the Gu house. A few days ago, there were still many people at home. Father, eldest aunt, Madame Dai, and the others had all left. Even brother Xiao had gone to the capital. Gu Yundong suddenly felt empty and uncomfortable. Big Black limped out and rubbed against her calf. Gu Yundong reached out and patted its head. "You're quite energetic now. You're wild every day. But you have to stay at home for the next period of time. Brother Xiao has gone to the capital, and no one will bring you into the mountains to play." Big Black wasn't used to coming to Yongfu village at first. Even after its leg was cured, it still looked tired all day. Later, Xiao Qingyuan saw that it had completely recovered, so he led it into the mountain. After returning, it was very excited and wanted to run into the mountains every other day. Xiao Qingyuan didn't have that much time and could only bring it there occasionally. However, Big Black slowly adapted to life in the Gu family. In addition, the Gu family's food was good. Yunshu and Yuanji liked it very much. They would leave a portion of delicious food for it and take it out for a walk at night. Big Black was limping now, but its fur was black and shiny, and its eyes were sharper. It looked very energetic. Big Black seemed to understand Gu Yundong's words. It made a whimpering sound, but no one knew if it was sad or regretful. Gu Yundong smiled and led it into the house. After Xiao Qingyuan left, Gu Yundong was really depressed for 2 days. She felt that something was wrong. In the past, when she wanted to talk to him, it was as if she could see him the moment she turned around. He was almost everywhere. Now, it took her a while to realize that he had gone to the capital. He was probably still on the way, right? Gu Yundong patted her face and did not think about him for the time being. She had her own things to do, which were also important. Early that morning, Gu Yundong put on her clothes and cloak and strode towards the village chief Chen Liang's house. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 930, Buying Land and Building Roads. The weather was cold and there was nothing to do in the fields. Chen Liang did not want to go out either. Now that Niu Dan was going to the county city to study on the Gu family's carriage, there was no need for him to wake up early in the morning to take him to school. This made him feel much more relaxed. When Gu Yundong came in, he was warming himself in front of the brazier and talking to Madame Zhou, who was doing needlework. Hearing the sound, Madame Zhou hurriedly stood up and came out to welcome her. "Yundong, why are you here at this time? Come in quickly. It's cold outside. Come and warm yourself by the fire." Gu Yundong smiled and sat opposite Chen Liang. Madame Zhou poured her a cup of hot tea and she placed it in her palm. "I'm here to see Uncle Chen. I have something to discuss with him." "What is it? Tell me." "I want to buy some land at the foot of our mountain." Uncle Chen was stunned. "Your house isn't big enough?" Gu Yundong smiled. "Of course not. Uncle Chen, you also know that I've found my aunt. Their household registration has already been moved to Yongfu village. It's just that they came late, unlike back then when we could directly be given land. So if we want to build a house, we have to buy some land, right?" Chen Liang nodded. "That's true. There's also my uncle. Although I haven't found him, I want to buy some land first. It'll be convenient for us to be neighbors in the future." "Oh right, Xianxia wants to buy a piece too. The land she wants is next door to the Zheng family's house. It's not very big." Xianxia made a few large embroidery pieces and Gu Yundong brought them to the prefectural city to sell. Their price was quite beautiful. Hence, she had some savings now. She had the money to build a house. Gu Yundong was worried about her living alone, but that did not stop her from buying the land first. Chen Liang was speechless. Why did she buy so much in one go? When did the foot of the mountain become so popular? He swallowed and nodded silently. "Sure." Gu Yundong looked at him with a smile. Chen Liang acted quickly. In the afternoon, he went to the government office to settle the matter and gave Gu Yundong the title deeds. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 931. Chen Liang is excited currently. There were two paths from the entrance of Yongfu village, but they were not wide. In particular, there was a stretch of road that was especially difficult to travel on. There was a small uphill and it was narrow. At most, it could only allow a carriage or an ox cart to pass. The workshop needed a lot of fruit now. Every time they transported fruits, they had to move carefully. She had learned that the carriages could pass through that road, but if they tied a basket on both sides of the carriage, it would not be able to pass. Moreover, the things in the carriage fell easily. Once they fell, they would be snatched back by the children in the village and dispersed. Every time the fruits were transported back to the village, it was when the children were the happiest. Everyone followed behind and stared eagerly, hoping that the fruits would fall to the ground. There were also villagers who were very dissatisfied with the fact that the Gu family's carriages and carts often passed by their houses. They said that the horses peed on the ground and the stench was overwhelming. Of course, these people did not dare to say it in front of her, but they muttered behind her back, making Father Tong, who often drove the carriage, furious. His horses did not poop or pee in front of other people's houses at all. This was slander. But no one believed him. So even if Gu Yundong wanted to build this road, there was nothing she could do. She could not tear down someone else's house and widen the road, right? Chen Liang also felt that it made sense. He nodded and said, "It's indeed not suitable." "Calm, if you build the road from the Gu family's workshop to the village, how do you plan to do it?" Chen Liang asked. Gu Yundong had considered this and discussed it with Tong Ping and the others. The Gu family's workshop is also at the foot of the mountain. I want to build it straight. However, in this case, we either have to pass through two fields or pass through the He family's backyard. I'm wondering if I can negotiate with the He family. Madame Zhou found it strange. Why didn't you choose those two fields? Gu Yundong did not say anything. Chen Liang glanced at her and said, "Think about who owns those two plots of land. The Li family." That's right. Compared to the Li family, who had a grudge against Xiao Qingyuan, the He family was naturally the more suitable choice. Most importantly, the He family was poor. Their house was quite dilapidated, and there were not many fruits and vegetables planted in the courtyard. If she were to offer appropriate compensation, the other party might agree. As far as Madame Zhou knew, the He family was still relatively easy to talk to. If a road was built at their door, it would be extremely convenient for their family. Chen Liang took a sip of tea and nodded after a moment of silence. "All right, they'll talk to the He family. Although you said that the road is built for the convenience of the Gu family's workshop, it's also a great kindness to the village. It's beneficial to Yongfu village. The village has to come up with some rules. When this road was built, it would be convenient for the Gu family. However, the days in Yongfu village were getting better and better. In the future, there would definitely be more and more families with carriages and ox carts. Even Chen Liang had been thinking of buying a mule cart some time ago. If he bought it later, he would definitely have to take the main road to make it convenient. Chen Liang was very excited as he thought about it. Constructing a road? Yongfu village was about to have its own road. When he was the village chief, he was really too excited to be able to facilitate such a big event for the village. How about this? In the afternoon, he'll discuss with Sixth Grandfather and the others to see how to deal with this matter. You come too, and everyone will come up with ideas. Also, building the road is a huge matter. After we've discussed it, I still have to go to town and talk to the mayor." Gu Yundong nodded. Of course, you can't just build a road so rashly. Chen Liang paused and suddenly remembered that she had bought several foundations yesterday. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 932. You cunning girl. The way Chen Liang looked at Gu Yundong changed instantly. He pointed at her. "All right, you cunning girl." Gu Yundong looked innocent. "What's wrong with me? I didn't do anything." She smiled and stood up. "Then I'll have to trouble Uncle Chen for the rest. I'll go back first. Shall I wait for good news from Uncle Chen?" "Go, just go." Chen Liang was a little vexed and did not want to see her. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth curled up slightly. She bade farewell to Madame Zhou and turned to leave the village chief's house. As soon as she left, Madame Zhou, who was confused, could not help but ask, "What did you mean just now? Why did you scold her out of the blue?" "When did I scold someone?" Chen Liang suddenly raised his head and asked in shock. "Who did he scold? Why didn't he have any impression of it?" Madame Zhou pointed at the door. "Didn't you just say that Yundong is very cunning? Isn't she cunning?" Chen Liang said, "She said that she wanted to build a road for the village today, but she bought a few pieces of foundation yesterday." Madame Zhou looked confused. Chen Liang felt even more vexed and could only explain, "Think about it. The road she mentioned is built from the foot of the mountain to the entrance of the village. It's the closest to those foundations. Just wait. When that road is built, if anyone wants to buy a foundation in the future, most of them will choose that area. If more people choose this, won't the price of the foundation increase?" Everyone in Yongfu village was living a good life now. As far as he knew, there were a few families who wanted to buy another piece of land to build a house because they had too many people in the house and couldn't expand it in their original location. Madame Zhou understood now and immediately clapped her hands. "Io, isn't that so? Husband, let's hurry up and buy a piece of land over there while everyone doesn't know about this. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 933, The He family's request. It was a big deal to build roads in the village. Chen Liang was the village chief, but he had to discuss it with the respected elders in the village. Other than the sixth grandfather, there were also a few families with great seniors. Everyone sat down and discussed this matter. When they heard that they were going to build a road for the village, these elders were all excited. There was nothing they did not agree to. Even if there were difficulties, it was fine. He just had to overcome them. The Gu family had already given them so much convenience. They could solve all the other small problems. Everyone reached an agreement without any objections. When Chen Liang came out of the sixth grandfather's house, his face was slightly red. Without delay, he went to the He family's house again. The He family did not have a strong presence in Yongfu village because of their remote position. Although it was not at the foot of the mountain, it was at the edge. There was a large field behind the house, so it was inconvenient to go out. There were a total of 4 members of the He family. Xianxia and his wife had a few-year-old son and a mother. He was not in good health. She could only lie in bed for 2/3 of the year, especially when the weather was too hot or cold. She took medicine all year round, so the He family could not save money. Mrs. He could only stay at home to take care of her child and mother-in-law. Then, she would clean up at home, plant some vegetables, and do some embroidery work. Only Xianxia was busy with the work in the field. The family was diligent and managed to make ends meet, but they were really poor. When Chen Liang came to explain the situation to the He family was stunned. Was he going to tear down their courtyard? Chen Liang was afraid that they would misunderstand, so he hurriedly said, "Of course, it's not for free. The village will definitely compensate you. You can think about it carefully and see what you need. If it can be done, the village will definitely satisfy you. If it can't, well, think of another way." Chen Liang had discussed with the elders that it was only right for the village to provide the compensation that the He family needed. Xianxia's family fell silent. Chen Liang looked at the head of the family and said, "We also know that you can't bear to part with it. It's a pity to tear down this courtyard. However, it's a big matter in the village after all. I also hope that this road can be built. When the time comes, it'll be convenient for your family to go out. Of course, I won't force you. If you're really unwilling, we can expand the field to the side." "I agree." As soon as Chen Liang finished speaking, Xianxia looked up. The rest of the He family looked at him in surprise. Chen Liang's face immediately lit up. "You're really willing? Then what compensation do you want?" "I want a foundation at the foot of the mountain, Mr. He said." Chen Liang was speechless. He looked at him strangely. He did not expect the guy to make such a request. "I don't need it to be too big. Just twice as big as this courtyard will be enough." Since it was compensation, this request was not too much. However, Liang was a little curious. What do you want that foundation for? Your family has money to build a house now? No, but I can circle it out and plant some vegetables first. When there's money, you'll build it. Liang thought about it and agreed. All right, I'll bring you the title deed later. After the He family was done, Liang left. He then went to the Gu house and told Gu Yundong about He Xianxuan's request. Gu Yundong was also a little surprised. She had no impression of the He family or He Xianxuan. If she had not encountered this incident during the road construction and specially asked Tongan, she would not have known that there was such a family in Yongfu village. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 934. The Gu family's benevolence. However, He Xianxuan's request was not too much. Liang had already settled the only difficult matter. Next, he could start building the road. The next day, Liang banged on the gong and drum, gathering everyone in the village to the grain sunning field. He stood on the steps and faced the curious and confused gazes of the villagers. He coughed lightly and said, I've gathered everyone here today to announce something. What's the matter? It's so early in the morning. I'm freezing to death. Liang glared at that person and said, Of course it's a good thing. If you're unwilling, go back and warm yourself up. I was just joking. Uncle, don't mind me. That person quickly changed his face. When he heard that it was a good thing, he immediately became excited and did not feel cold anymore. He urged him, What good thing? Uncle, quickly tell me. Everyone quickly let him speak. Moreover, they realized that not only was Liang, the village chief, present, but even the sixth grandfather and the other elders were present. This was strange. What kind of good thing was it that even they, who usually did not like to go out, were here? Liang looked around and said loudly, Our village is going to build a road. What? Build a road? The audience instantly buzzed and started whispering to each other. Someone could not help but ask, Village chief, what's going on with this road construction? Is the government doing it for our village? Who's paying? That's right. Do we have to send one person to work from each family? Is there any salary? I won't go without a salary. We have a lot of work to do. Everyone had different thoughts. In this day and age, when it came to building bridges, roads, and dams, the first thing they thought of was forced labor. The late emperor was muddle-headed and tyrannical. The people who suffered were the commoners. The current county magistrate was not bad, but the previous county magistrate was not a good person. Many people in their village died from exhaustion during forced labor. Therefore, everyone was very resistant to building roads. Liang saw that the villagers' thoughts were all crooked and hurriedly said, Everyone, calm down first. This road is not ordered by the government. It's the Gu family's benevolence. They paid to build a road for our village. The grain sunning field was indeed silent. Everyone looked at Gu Yundong, who was standing not far from the village chief, in disbelief. The Gu family was going to pay for it? Everyone's eyes lit up. Since the Gu family was paying, it was definitely not forced labor. Wasn't that a good thing? Someone asked anxiously, Gu girl, how do we build this road? Can we build it at our door? Let me tell you, the road outside our house is full of potholes. When it rains, if we step on it, half of our shoes will sink in. Gu Yundong glanced at that person. Oh, wasn't she the auntie who said that Gu Yundong's carriages passed by their house to poop and pee? You really have the cheek to say that? However, before she could say anything, someone immediately replied, What's there to build at your door? Didn't you hear what the village chief said? We're going to build a wide road. The path in front of your place is so narrow. How can it be considered a road? Unless your house is torn down. Why not? Our family's path can still allow the carriage to pass. The Gu family's girl's carriage often passes by our door. Our family's road is the main road of the village. It has to be done. As she spoke, she became a little smug. Gu girl, since you're so generous and benevolent, why don't you tidy up the outer wall of our house while you're building the road? Liang frowned and regretted what he said just now. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 935. No, Unrighteous. Gu Yundong and Chen Liang looked at each other before walking up the stairs. The moment she went up, it was instantly quiet below. Then, everybody heard her clear voice. The road I want to build is indeed a main road. At the very least, it can accommodate 2 carriages to pass through at the same time. Therefore, it won't be fixed on the original road. It will be a new one from the foot of the mountain to the village entrance. Everyone was stunned. A new one? Someone was dissatisfied. The road from the foot of the mountain to the entrance of the village had nothing to do with them. They didn't pass by there when they left the village. Some people quickly realized that the Gu family's house was at the foot of the mountain. Wasn't this convenient for her family? What kind of benevolence was this? Gu Yundong listened to them. On the other hand, Chen Liang's forehead was covered in sweat. Damn it, he had been too full of himself just now. Unintentionally, he had set up a trap the Gu girl. Gu Yundong, on the other hand, was very calm. She knew Chen Liang's intentions. He wanted her to have a good reputation and increase her prestige. Gu Yundong appreciated Chen Liang's kindness, but her thoughts were different from Chen Liang's. She did not need such prestige. In fact, such a reputation was a burden to her. Others would think that she had done a good deed and accept it as a matter of course. In the future, they would use other things to kidnap her morally. It was better to make everything clear. In any case, those who were smart would naturally be grateful to her when they experienced the benefits of the main road in the future. Those who wanted to take advantage of you and felt that you had not given them enough benefits would only push their luck and use your benevolence label to restrain you. Once you were a little unbenevolent, it would be wrong. Hence, she made it very clear. Since I'm the one paying to build the road, I'll naturally decide where it will be built. If I pay and work to build the road myself, and someone says that my horse shouldn't take that road and dirty the road, then I'm probably a fool, right? Someone laughed out loud. Many people knew who she was referring to. The woman who had been clamoring just now was furious, but she really did not dare to argue with her in front of Gu Yundong. After all, Gu Yundong's brutal manner of attacking without any explanation was too memorable. Gu Yundong continued, I'm not afraid to make it clear. This road is built to make it more convenient to travel. Of course, I won't stop everyone from walking just because I paid to build the road. If everyone feels that it's more convenient to walk on the main road, then take the main road. If you feel that it's not time-consuming to walk on the small road, then take the small road. It's just an additional road that will make it more convenient for everyone to drive ox carts, donkey carts, and carriages in the future. Someone thought, hey, isn't that so? Our family is planning to buy an ox recently. It will definitely be comfortable to drag the cart on the main road in the future. That's true. In the past, when we were pulling the cart to transport food, we kept bumping obstacles on the village road. It was too strenuous. Then when I go to the foot of the mountain to pick up firewood in the future, won't I be able to carry it directly to the village entrance from the main road? Yundong, is the main road straight? Will it take many turns? Gu Yundong replied with a smile, no, it's just a straight road. That's great. Heh, our family is planning to buy a donkey cart. With the main road, I won't have to worry about my driving skills being bad. The discussion below was turning for the better. Although there were still some voices that made people uncomfortable, Chen Liang still heaved a sigh of relief. Gu Yundong waited for everyone to finish talking before continuing. Next, I need to hire 20 people to build the road. Anyone who is interested can sign up at the village chief's place. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 936. A letter hire? That was money. This was the real benefit that could be seen in front of him. Soon, the dissatisfied voices disappeared. Even the auntie who had been against Gu Yundong from the beginning immediately wanted to sign up for her son. She could not wait to ask, how much is the salary for a day? However, Chen Liang also had a temper. She was the one who opposed most just now. Now, she still wanted to work? Dream on. He looked at the villagers and said, everyone, quiet down first. We have to make things here first. It's best if we finish building the road before the new year, so we want young and strong people who are diligent. Those who are too old or too little, don't come and join in the fun. It wasn't the time for farm work, and many people were resting at home. Some people went to town or county to do short-term jobs. However, it was not easy to find short-term jobs, so it was easy to find 20 young men in the village. Not long after, the village chief registered their names and told everyone that the salary for a day was 50 copper coins, no food included. Calm, everyone work hard. The Gu family isn't the only one who can take this road. Everyone in our village can take it. This is a road built for ourselves, so everyone has to perk up and build this road for me. Do you hear me? I hear you. Don't worry, village chief. We definitely won't be slacking. That's right, that's right. Our village is getting better and better. In the future, there will definitely be more and more ox carts. Everyone can use this road. Seeing that everyone had such an understanding, Liang was relieved. He brought these 20 people to take a look at the positions and choose the leader. Unfortunately, Demeaning was not around. He was still renovating the houses in the prefectural city. Otherwise, it would be best for him to take the lead. However, there was also an experienced master who was good at building roads. It was the same for him to lead the way. Among these 20 people was Xianxia from the He family. There was nothing to do now. Xianxia originally wanted to enter the city to find work, but now that there was a job in the village, he did not have to make an extra trip. Yundong did not care much about what happened next. On the road construction matter, Liang was more concerned than her. He kept an eye on it early in the morning every day, as if he was afraid that something would happen. Fortunately, everyone was working hard and did not hesitate at all. Yundong bought a lot of sand and stones and laid them flat on the ground. People wouldn't be afraid of mud on a rainy day. After building a part of the road, she specially let the carriage try it. As expected, it was much faster. After building the road for more than 20 days, it was almost done. At this moment, Yundong received Xiao Qingyuan's letter. This letter was to inform her that he was safe. Xiao Qingyuan said that he had arrived in the capital and met Song Dejiang. The entire journey was safe. He ate and slept well. He remembered her words firmly in his heart without any illness or pain. Yundong wanted to laugh when she read this, but the longing in her heart also spread. He had arrived in the capital so quickly, which meant that he must have been traveling at full speed. After reading the letter, she immediately picked up her brush and replied to him. She recounted what she had done these past few days and also told him about the road construction in the village. In the end, she wished him a happy new year in advance and told him to take care of himself and come back soon. Although they had been separated for a few days, it was quite interesting to have letters. Yundong heaved a sigh of relief and felt much better. A month later, the road from the foot of the mountain to the entrance of the village was finally completed. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 937. Envious. Everyone in Yongfu village was overjoyed. No matter what, this was a road that belonged to their Yongfu village and could allow 2 carriages to pass. This road was built before the new year. It was just nice for the relatives who visited after the new year. Everyone was excited. Even the people who had muttered their dissatisfaction on the meeting were very proud, especially when they went to their relatives and friends' houses. Everyone mentioned this road, making the villagers of the other villages jealous. On the day the road was completed, almost the entire village came out to take a walk on this road. However, Liang stopped them. He bought firecrackers and placed them on a long bamboo pole. He got someone to light the primer and personally carried it all the way from the foot of the mountain to the entrance of the village. On this day, the entire Yongfu village was filled with joy, as if it was the new year in advance. Yundong was also very happy. She took a lot of fruits and snacks for the jumping children to eat. Communka was very bold now. She swayed and actually wanted to follow behind Liang to set off firecrackers. Yundong was so frightened that she hurriedly carried her back. These firecrackers were blind. It would not be good if a child was injured. Many people from the neighboring village came to experience this main road. Even the workshop was suspended for 2 hours. Everyone came out to watch the fun. The main road was built outside their workshop. Wouldn't it be easier to commute in the future? Especially for the workers from other villages, they didn't have to worry about bumping into someone from the corner at night. They felt much safer. The main road was built, and many people were grateful to the Gu family. After all, it was really convenient. Furthermore, they could go to other villages to brag to others. The village chief of the neighboring village was so envious that his eyes turned red. Every time he met Chen Liang, he would be very unhappy when he saw the guy's smug expression. You're just lucky. If the Gu family had settled in our village back then, you would be the one jealous of us now. Chen Liang snorted. Forget it, there was a big road in his village. He would be magnanimous and not argue with such a pitiful person. There were unexpectedly many people walking on this new road. On the third day, Gu Yundong also drove the carriage out of Yongfu village. It was almost the new year, and she planned to go to the county to buy things. Also, now that there were more people in the workshop, she had to buy New Year presents for everyone. The county city was lively again. The streets were filled with joy, and many stalls had already begun to sell couplets. Gu Yundong looked away. There were 3 scholars in her family now. It was easy for them to write couplets. Her father would be back in a few days. It would be the same if he wrote them then. As she thought about it, she decided to buy some red words. Tong Shuitao came out with her. The two of them parked the carriage at Gus and shopped. When it was almost noon and their hands were full, they returned to Gus and put the things in the carriage. Gu Yundong clapped her hands. Let's go eat first. We'll continue watching after that. Okay. The two of them were about to walk out when Zhuangzi hurriedly said, Boss, you guys rest for a while. They'll go straight to Xianxia restaurant and bring the food back. There's no need to trouble yourself. Gu Yundong nodded and Zhuangzi left in a hurry. After a while, a few voices suddenly came from the shop outside. Gu Yundong and Tong Shuitao looked at each other. It did not sound like Zhuangzi. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 938. Embezzlement? Gu Yundong lifted the curtain separating the shop and looked out. It was indeed not Zhuangzi's voice. At this moment, in the shop, other than the shop assistant, Qin Kai, there were 2 people standing in front of him. A man and a woman. Oh, and 2 familiar faces at that. Gu Yundong, who was about to go out, stopped in her tracks and looked at the situation in the shop silently. This man and woman were Qin Yulan and Wu Chong. The last time she heard from Ye Shuang and the others that these 2 people had appeared at Chen Liang's door, she told Chen Liang about the matter. Chen Liang snorted and said that he would pretend that he didn't know. After that, she didn't hear any news of the 2 of them going to the Chen family. She didn't expect them to come to Gus. Qin Yulan had a smile on her face. She looked at Qin Kai ingratiatingly. Brother. Qin Kai frowned. Why are you still here? Updated by NOVG. Ko Wu Chong pursed his lips and didn't say anything. He stood at the side with his hands folded. Only Qin Yulan smiled dryly and said to Qin Kai, Brother, have you considered what we talked about last time? Consider. Qin Kai sneered. He felt that it was unbelievable. I remember that I rejected you at that time. When did I say that I would consider? Big brother, don't say that. We really have no choice. The Wu family's shop doesn't have much business now. If this continues, it will close soon. The Wu family's shop was a small grocery store in town. It used to have a good business, so the Wu family always acted arrogantly. They looked down on country bumpkins like the Chen family. If Qin Kai hadn't been the manager of a workshop in town, he wouldn't have married Qin Yulan. But now, the grocery store's business was getting worse and worse. At the end of the day, it was also very related to the Chen family. Jingyuan town wasn't very big to begin with, and Niu Dan matter had caused a storm in the city. Even the families near the grocery store learned about this matter and knew that his mother had slandered Niu Dan for stealing. News of this spread like wildfire. Not long after, the grocery store's business plummeted. Many people said that they did not dare to enter the shop to buy things. afraid that they would be slandered as thieves. As it happened, a few days ago, there was another grocery store that opened opposite Wu's. That family was good at doing business. In contrast, almost no one entered the Wu family's shop. During this period of time, the Wu family had been eating their old money. They did not have any income from the shop, and the entire family was very worried. Then they started to complain to each other. The house was in chaos every day. At this moment, Chen Yulan thought of the Chen family. "Brother, please help us. There are no shops in town who sell this kind of white sugar. If we get first place, our business will definitely improve. When the grocery store survives the crisis, we will definitely visit you personally to thank you, okay?" Qin Jin Kai sneered. "Everyone is limited to 5 caddies of white sugar a day at Gus. As long as you take the money, I can sell it to you." Chen Yulan's face stiffened. "Brother, are you kidding me? How can 5 caddies be enough? Besides, the white sugar in your shop is too expensive. Can you sell it to us at a cheaper price? 50, 30 caddies a day? I'll buy some delicious food for sister-in-law and nephew later, okay?" Qin Jin Kai was so angry that he was about to laugh. "Okay, my ass. You have a good plan. 15 kilograms a day, and you want it to be cheaper? How are you so capable? Are you asking me to embezzle the goods in the shop? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 939. You will be the shopkeeper. Chen Yulan laughed dryly. "Brother, don't say that. We're family. We're just helping each other. Brother, I'm your biological sister. If you don't help me, I really won't be able to live." As she spoke, sadness welled up in her heart. Tears were about to fall. "Biological sister? You still have the cheek to say that? Back then, when Yo Dan was slandered by your mother-in-law, why didn't you say that we were biological siblings? When my father came to seek an explanation, you still kept slandering Yo Dan. Why didn't you say that we were biological siblings? Let me tell you, our families have long cut ties. Let alone biological siblings, we won't even be strangers in the future." For a moment, Qin Yulan was embarrassed by his scolding. Her face turned pale, and there was a faint anger rising in her. However, when she thought of her current situation, she suppressed it ruthlessly. On the other hand, Wu Chong, who had been silent all this while, snorted coldly and said to Chen Yulan, "I knew it was useless to beg him, but you just didn't listen and insisted on coming over to get scolded. Don't you see that he's just a small shop assistant? He's just an errand boy who carries goods. There's a rascal shopkeeper above him. What can he do? What dare he do?" Qin Jin Kai suddenly looked at him. "Yes, you're right. I'm just a little buddy. I can't do anything. So please don't come to my door again in the future. Hurry up and leave. Get lost. Get lost. Don't appear in front of me in the future." With that, he pushed the 2 of them out. Chen Yulan still wanted to say something, but Qin Jin Kai didn't give them a chance at all. His face was full of impatience. However, just as the 2 of them were about to be pushed out of the door, Zhuangzi returned. Updated by NOVG. Kohi was still holding a food box in his hand. When he saw the 3 of them, he was stunned for a moment. Then he frowned and said, "Qin Jin Kai, what's wrong with you? Who asked you to chase the guests away?" Qin Jin Kai stopped in his tracks. Even Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Tong Shuetao, who was at the side, whispered, "What's wrong with Zhuangzi? Doesn't he know Chen Yulan? He already knows that she's not a good person, yet he's still helping her. Don't tell me he's deliberately finding trouble with Qin Jin Kai?" Gu Yundong waved her hand. "Just watch." Actually, the 3-month trial that she had agreed on with Zhuangzi had been over. However, it was almost the new year. In addition, Lan Hua would be getting married soon, so he might as well wait for another 2 months and go to the prefectural city with Jiang Bao after the new year. Therefore, Zhuangzi was still the shopkeeper of Gus' shop, but he stayed in the backyard most of the time and let Qin Jin Kai take charge. But Gu Yundong had a vague feeling that Zhuangzi might have postponed the time because he was addicted to being a shopkeeper. Chen Yulan was a little flustered because of Zhuangzi's arrival. They had actually been standing outside the shop for a long time. After confirming that Zhuangzi was not around, They came in to look for Chen Jinkai. Unexpectedly, Zhuangzi returned at this critical juncture. On the other hand, Wu Chong was a little happy. Anyway, the matter couldn't be done, and Chen Jinkai didn't give them any face at all and wanted to chase them away. Naturally, he was happy to see Zhuangzi reprimanding Chen Jinkai. Therefore, he seemed to have a common enemy and added, "That's right. Who gave you the guts to chase the customers out? It's not that I want to say this, but your shop assistant's attitude is a little too bad." Zhuangzi nodded. "That's right. What right does a small shop assistant like you have to chase a guest away? If you want to chase someone away, it should be the shopkeeper. After I leave and you become the shopkeeper, it will be your turn to do this. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 940, A Warning Beforehand. Gu Yundong, Tong Shui Tao. The other three people in the shop were speechless. Wu Chong was the first to react. He suddenly looked up at Zhuangzi. You're leaving after the new year?" Then he pointed at Chen Jinkai. "He's here to be the shopkeeper?" The shop assistant was very different from the shopkeeper. Updated by Of. Co. The entire shop was run by the shopkeeper, and the accounts were also managed by the shopkeeper. When dealing with customers, it was also the shopkeeper, let alone the salary. Wu Chong suddenly looked at Chen Jinkai. "Are you going to be the shopkeeper of Gus after the new year?" Chen Jinkai sneered. "This is our shop's business. What does it have to do with you? Hurry up and leave." "Didn't I tell you? The shop assistant can't chase the customers away, but I can." Zhuangzi interrupted him and stuffed the food box into his hand. Then he waved his hands. "Go, hurry up and leave. If you don't leave, I'll beat you with a broom." "Hey!" Wu Chong was furious. At this moment, Jiang Bao, who was next door, also came over to help. He held 2 large brooms in his hands and threw them to Zhuangzi. After that, the two of them swept Chen Yulan and Wu Chong away like they were sweeping trash. Wu Chong was still a little indignant. He still wanted to ask if Chen Jinkai would be the shopkeeper of Gus after the new year. If that was the case, wouldn't he have offended him for nothing? Updated by Novg. Co. For a moment he regretted it. It was Chen Jinkai's fault for not making things clear. If he had told him earlier, the two families would not have fallen out so badly. Chen Yulan was even more vexed. Her eldest cousin was about to become a shopkeeper. Moreover, he was the shopkeeper in the county city. He was much more dignified than the manager of the town. She heard that Gus was now in the prefectural city. In that case, would eldest cousin still be able to go to the prefectural city in the future? The couple had different thoughts, but neither of them could stay and talk. It really hurt when the broom hit them. Coupled with the pointing by the passers-by, the two of them quickly buried their heads and ran. Zhuangzi snorted and returned the broom to Jiang Bao before returning to the shop. Chen Jinkai looked at him speechlessly. "Why did you tell them that I'm going to be a shopkeeper after the new year? Would they give up? Won't they know if we don't tell them? They'll have to know sooner or later. I might as well tell them now. At least I can give you a hand if they come again." Gu Yundong opened the curtain and walked out. What Zhuangzi said makes some sense. It doesn't matter if you say it earlier or later. "Boss." Chen Jinkai was a little ashamed. "I caused you trouble." "This isn't trouble. Who doesn't have a few annoying relatives? You've already cut ties with them, but they're still shameless enough to come knocking on your door. This can only mean that they're thick-skinned. However, I have to remind you in advance. You have to know this in your heart. If you really can't resist their threats and temptations and harm the interests of Gus, I won't be polite either. When the time comes, not only will you be fired, but I won't even hire your brother either." Although it was a little inhumane to do so, Gu Yundong had to explain the seriousness of the matter to him. As expected, Chen Jinkai immediately put on a serious expression. "Don't worry, boss. Not to mention that we have cut ties now, even if we are close, I won't do such a heinous thing." "That's good." Gu Yundong believed this. After all, Chen Jinkai had reminded him that someone wanted to harm her mother. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 941, Follow-up Gu Yundong did not care about this matter anymore. She left it all to Chen Jingkai to it. However, the Wu family was after her shop, so Gu Yundong still paid some attention to this matter. It was said that Chen Yulan and her husband hadn't come to the shop since that day. However, they were secretly asking if Chen Jingkai would become the shopkeeper. Unfortunately, not many people knew about this matter. They could not obtain any substantial information. Hence, they could only ask around if Zhuangzi would go to the prefectural city after the new year. Many people knew about this. After all, many things had to be arranged before Zhuangzi left. After obtaining the exact news, they were no longer in a hurry. They seemed to want to wait until Chen Jingkai became the shopkeeper before persuading him. Updated by Of. Ko. However, the Chen family had to be visited. It was said that on the second day of the Lunar New Year, Chen Yulan came to visit with the members of the Wu family. However, Chen Liang did not have a good impression of their family and did not even let them in. However, the Wu family refused to leave, especially Auntie Wu. She cried and repented outside, causing many people to go out to watch the commotion. It would not be a big deal if the villagers saw this. After all, many people knew about the grudge between the two families. However, it was the new year, and many families had relatives and friends as guests. They could not afford to lose face. Therefore, Chen Liang could only invite her in. Once she entered, Auntie Wu apologized sincerely. She apologized to Chen Liang and his wife, to Chen Jinbao and his wife, and even to Niu Dan. One could tell at a glance that she regretted her actions and had turned over a new leaf. In addition, the other members of the Wu family had also humbled themselves. It was the new year, so no one could say anything cold or hard. Moreover, Chen Yulan was the only daughter of Chen Liang's younger brother. Hearing her mention her father when he was alive, Chen Liang could not help but feel a little guilty. Seeing that his parents' attitude had softened, Chen Jingkai was furious. Updated by NOVG. He thought that Chen Yulan and her husband would look for him in the shop. He didn't expect them to have designs on his family. He exposed their purpose on the spot. Chen Yulan denied it, but Chen Liang naturally believed in his son. He immediately stood up and threw out all the things they had brought, and drove the Wu family out, regardless of whether the people outside would laugh at him. The Wu family was embarrassed and was furious with the Chen family. Moreover, Chen Liang's words were very ruthless. He said in front of his relatives and neighbors, "In the future, this family has nothing to do with the Chen family. In the future, if they enter the village, chase them out." It was said that the Wu family had never appeared in Yongfu village again. Of course, this was all in the future. At this moment, Gu Yundong and Tong Shuitao were still resting in the shop. After lunch, they went to the street to buy things again. New clothes for the new year had already been prepared, so there was no need to buy them. Firecrackers and fireworks were still needed, especially fireworks. The children especially liked to watch them. They had already bought the lanterns, paper scissors, and red candles in the morning. They had to prepare melon seeds, peanuts, dried goods, tea, and drinks first. Sweets and fruits were available at home. As for the rice cake, tofu and dumplings, she could slowly make them in the next few days. She could buy and kill the chicken, duck, and fish before the new year. With this in mind, her family's New Year goods were almost ready. Next, it was time to prepare something else. Gu Yundong brought Tong Shuitao into a clothing store. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 942, Annual Party and Lottery. Tong Shuitao found it strange. "Miss, haven't you almost bought everything? Why are we going to the cloth shop? Isn't the workshop going to rest in 2 days? It's time to prepare New Year presents for them." This year, the workshop would stop a few days earlier than last year, so everyone could prepare early for the new year. After all, there were many workers in the workshop this year and they were busy all day. There was enough stock, so it did not matter if they were given a holiday a few days in advance. Tong Shuitao was enlightened. That's right. Last year, Miss also sent a large cart of New Year goods. She had heard that many people in the workshop were looking forward to this day. They were already secretly guessing if she would continue to distribute meat and cloth this year. Updated by Of. Especially the newcomers this year, they were all asking the short-term workers last year. But Mississippi, Tong Shuitao suddenly frowned and said awkwardly, will it still be a big piece of pork for each person this year? But it's already afternoon, and there's not much meat at the meat stall. Our workshop has more than 100 people. There's no hurry. I'll get Tong in to come over and buy it later. There are more than 100 people. I'm afraid we have to order 2 big fat pigs in advance. Let's buy the things we want for the annual party today. Tong Shuitao was stunned, and confusion flashed across her face. Annual party? Miss, what is an annual party? It is the last gathering before the new year. We'll eat together, chat, play games, and so on. Of course, there was also the lucky draw. Yundong was very happy to hold such a New Year celebration to make everyone happy. They had worked hard for an entire year. On the last day, they could relax and then go home happily to celebrate the new year. At this moment, what she wanted to buy was the prize for the lucky draw. Tong Shuitao became excited, and her face turned slightly red. Miss, you're saying that more than 100 people will be eating and chatting together? How spectacular is that? Updated by NOVG. Spectacular? The corners of Yundong's mouth twitched. Looking at Tong Shuitao's excited expression, she seemed to be looking forward to it. Yundong quickly bought the goods and returned to Yongfu village with Tong Shuitao. Before leaving, she said to Zhuangzi and Chen Kai, you guys close early on the 26th. Go back to the village and let's have a meal together. The two of them were at a loss. A meal? However, the two of them immediately nodded, indicating that they would go back early. On the other hand, Tong Shuitao winked at the two of them before she left, looking mysterious, making the two of them even more confused. The carriage quickly drove into Yongfu village. With the new road, it was much easier for the carriage to travel. There were still many people on the road. The road had been built for a few days, but the villagers still seemed to have not walked enough. They had to pass through this road no matter where they went. It did not matter if they took a long detour. Yundong did not know whether to laugh or cry. She did not look at the people outside anymore and hurried home to unload the goods. The next day, the Gu family started making rice cakes. On the third day, in the evening of the 25th, Gu Dajiang brought Gu Dafeng and the others back from the prefectural city. Gu Dajiang was stunned when he saw the new village road. Although Chen Jinbao and the others had already mentioned this when they were delivering the goods to the prefectural city, he couldn't help but be shocked when he saw it with his own eyes. This was his daughter's road. It was his daughter's credit. At that moment, Gu Dajiang's heart surged with indescribable pride. Gu Dafeng was also sitting in the carriage. Looking at the spacious road, she sighed and introduced it to Bian Han excitedly. This road originally didn't exist. When I left last time, this place was still very narrow. There was even a courtyard in front. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 943. The Gu family distributes New Year gifts. Again, Bian Han felt that his eyes were not enough. One moment he was staring at the ground, and the next moment he looked into the distance in the direction Gu Dafeng was pointing. His legs were much better now. Although he couldn't shake them yet, it wasn't to the extent that he couldn't move. It was just that in order to take care of his leg, while it originally only took a day to return from the prefectural city, in the end, it took 2 days. Let me tell you, don't be too surprised when you see the house later. Our Yundong built the house very well. It's especially spacious and beautiful. Whoever sees it will like it. Gu Dafeng whispered into his ear to remind him. After all, the first time she came, she was stunned when she saw the green brick-tiled house. Updated by Ov. Bian Han smiled and nodded. She had told him this many times. Not long after, the carriage arrived at the entrance of the Gu residence. However, even though Bian Han was mentally prepared, he was still stunned when he saw the house in front of him. It was his fault for not knowing enough. He heard that this house was built after Yundong fled to Yongfu village. This girl was really capable. Seeing his stunned expression, Gu Dafeng sniggered. Then she got out of the carriage, took the wheelchair from Lu Sheng, and pushed it in front of him. This time, The 4 members of the Lu family also came back. The small courtyard was locked, and Gu Dajiang asked his neighbor to help keep an eye on it. There weren't many valuable items there, and the security there was good. There were many scholars, and there were often people patrolling, so he wasn't too worried. Gu Yundong stood at the door and welcomed them in. Updated by NOVG. Father, are we still going to the academy after the new year? Gu Dajiang shook his head. I'm not going. Just stay at home and prepare for the exam. Teacher also said that it's not a big problem. He told me not to worry too much, nor do I need to travel back and forth. It's a waste of time. If there was really something he didn't understand, he could ask Qin Wenzheng. Gu Yundong knew what was going on. Gu Dajiang asked her about the road construction and Xiao Qingyuan. Seeing that he was endless, Gu Dafeng couldn't help but pat him. You just came back. Aren't you tired? Can't you rest well first and talk another day? Gu Dajiang coughed lightly and didn't ask further. Everyone quickly finished eating, washed up, and went to rest. The next day was the 26th, and the workshop had stopped for the day. Early in the morning, Tong went to get meat. There were a lot of people, and each of them had 2 caddies of meat. 2 pigs were barely enough. However, there was still a gathering tonight, and Tong still needed at least half a pig. For a butcher's shop, this was a huge order. They had prepared the pork in advance and even cut it one by one. They guaranteed that every piece of meat weighed 2 caddies, no more, no less. Tong took the meat and bought a lot of vegetables. When they returned to the village, many people saw them. The cart was filled with things, and they could not help but stare. Someone swallowed his saliva. Why did the Gu family suddenly buy so much meat? Are they preparing for the new year? This is too much. Why don't you take a look at how many people there are in the Gu family now? There are more than 10 servants. There's no need for so much, right? You guys are really ignorant. I think this meat must be for the workers in the workshop. What? Then that person also remembered. Wasn't it almost the new year? Last year, the Gu family was also very generous. Everyone was given a lot of things and happily carried them home for the new year. Envy, jealousy, and hatred. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 944. His daughter is powerful. The news that the Gu family was going to distribute New Year goods quickly spread throughout the village. On the other hand, the people in the workshop were still working hard to do their last day of work this year. Tong and his handcart was pulled back to the Gu family. Gu Yundong led the family to tidy up the New Year goods first. The stuff was similar to last year's. It was also pork cloth and sugar, but last year's brown sugar had turned into white sugar. In addition, everyone had a piece of pastry bought from the county city. It had been ordered long ago. When the Gu family saw that the courtyard was filled with food, their eyes were filled with surprise. Gu Dafeng sighed. In the past, if I got a small piece of meat, I would wake up laughing even in my dreams. Even if it was for the sake of sharing this meat every year, I could continue to work in the workshop. I didn't expect that the meat would be distributed this year. Just thinking about it makes my heart ache a little. Gu Yundong smiled. Even you think so, eldest aunt? If you can't bear to give up this job for a piece of meat, will others think the same? Gu Dafeng was stunned. She pointed at her. You're smart. Wasn't that so? How many families in this village were like her in the past? They had to be careful when they wanted to eat a piece of meat during the new year. There were not many bosses like Gu Yundong. After distributing the items, Gu Yundong planned to make a trip to the workshop. She had yet to tell everyone about the gathering. On the other hand, Gu Dajiang was quite curious about this annual party. He followed Gu Yundong to the workshop. Your annual party is quite interesting. How did you come up with it? Well, could Gu Yundong say that she did not think of this? She turned around and met Gu Dajiang's curious gaze. She could only swallow. Then she said in all seriousness, Father, here it goes. We're all at the dining table when we discuss business. Your classmates often arrange to eat and talk together, so when it comes to socializing, eating and drinking are the most suitable. Everyone usually just works hard. I guess some people don't know each other. Why don't we give them a chance to relax and eat together, right? Gu Dajiang fell into deep thought. Indeed, many things were easy to say at the dining table. Conflicts quickly dissipated over a few drinks. Those who had common topics might become closer after chatting. Coupled with the good food and drinks, everyone felt a greater sense of belonging to the workshop. She was trying to buy people's hearts. His daughter was amazing. Gu Yundong did not know that he was thinking so much. As the two of them spoke, they arrived at the entrance of the workshop not long after. As she had already told everyone that they would stop working at the 26th this year, there were not many fruits and sugarcane left in the workshop. He estimated that they could stop work at noon. When Gu Yundong and his father came in, everyone stood up. "Master Boss, why are you here?" Someone's eyes lit up. Today was the last day. Were they going to give out New Year goods? But when he saw that there was no cart behind Gu Yundong carrying things over, he was immediately disappointed. Perhaps there were too many people this year. However, it didn't matter. It was understandable. After all, the New Year goods distributed by the Gu family last year were good stuff. If everyone was given a piece this year, it would cost a lot of money. Gu Yundong waved her hand and asked the people who were temporarily free to come over first. She waited until they were close before she spoke. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 945. They are all jealous. There shouldn't be much to do, right? I think it should be done after noon. How about this? After everyone is done, let's clean up the workshop, okay? All right, someone immediately replied loudly. Even if boss doesn't say it, we'll clean everything up before going back. Boss, don't worry. In fact, they still wanted to work. They had heard that there was an additional salary these few days. It was just like Zhuangzi and Qinjinkai in the county cities Gus. During the new year, the shop could not be closed. After all, they sold sweets and other things. Business was good during the new year, so the two of them would take turns to run the shop. However, their salary for the few days was also calculated separately. It was much more than usual. Many people in the workshop were envious. Unfortunately, the workshop was on holiday. Gu Yundong saw that everyone had different expressions and more or less knew what they were thinking. She immediately found it funny and continued, "After cleaning up, send some people out and borrow 10 tables from each family. I want those big tables that can seat more than 10 people." Everyone was surprised. "Boss, why do you need so many tables?" "For the gathering tonight, of course." Gu Yundong smiled. "Don't go back for dinner tonight. Let's have a meal together and chat. How about that?" "Wow, the boss is treating us to a meal?" Cheers instantly erupted in the workshop. "That's great. I want to eat lunch. I'll save it for dinner." "Ah, forget it. With your stomach, no matter how much you eat for lunch, you can still swallow a cow at night." "Boss, I'm drooling now. We definitely won't leave. After cleaning the workshop, we'll borrow tables and stools. I guarantee that everyone will be able to sit down." Gu Yundong could feel everyone's excitement. Even Gu Dajiang was infected by this enthusiasm. He could not help but say, "There will be New Year presents to be delivered tonight." Gu Yundong turned to look at her father. Gu Dajiang immediately touched his nose and coughed lightly. "Well, I couldn't help it. I just wanted to make everyone happier." As expected, as soon as he said that, the workshop exploded. Some young men couldn't help but jump up. "Ah, I've been looking forward to the New Year presents for a year." Gu Yundong was speechless. She had not seen them so happy when they were given the wages. She shook her head, thinking that there was still a surprise tonight. She hoped that they would not be too excited. After saying that, Gu Yundong left with Gu Dajiang. As soon as they left, the workshop was instantly filled with joy. Everyone gathered together and discussed. Helpless, Tong'an walked out and said, "Aren't you going to work? The earlier you finish your work, the earlier you can eat dinner." Everyone instantly dispersed. Now, they were full of energy, and even their efficiency was almost twice as fast as before. Before noon, the work in the workshop was done. Everyone started to clean up happily. The men took buckets to the river and fetched water. They went back and forth a few times, washing the entire workshop until it was spotless. Even the floor was clean. Seeing how happy they were, some villagers couldn't help but pull them back and ask. When the villagers found out that they were to have a dinner gathering tonight, the villagers couldn't be more jealous. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 946. They are all here this time. The news of the Gu family's workshop not only distributing New Year goods but also holding a party spread. Many people had tears in their eyes as they stuck their heads out of the workshop. They really wanted to follow and take a look. When the cleaning of the workshop was almost done, everyone saw the people in the workshop happily moving tables and chairs. Their arrogant appearance made people grit their teeth in envy. Gu Yundong hired a few women from the village to help cook a delicious meal. The fish, rice, and noodles were brought to the kitchen of the Gu family's workshop without hesitation. This included Madame Zhou and her daughter-in-law. Coincidentally, Chen Liang's family could eat here. As Chen Liang was the village chief, Gu Yundong had to invite him. In addition, Chen Jinkai and Chen Jinbao were both working in her own workshop, and Niu Dan had been invited over by Yunfu long ago. As such, there were only Madame Zhou and 2 more people left in the Chen family. They might as well all come over. Lan Hua was also invited over. As for the others, they were not allowed to bring their families. It was mainly because at this moment, there were really not just 1 or 2 families, but 1 or 2 groups. If they were allowed to bring their families, almost the entire village would have to come. Not only that, but there were also long-term workers from the neighboring villages. The workshop could not entertain them. Dinner started around 4 o'clock. It was dark early in winter, and there were no electric lamps. Even if many oil lamps were lit, the effect was not very good. When it was early in the afternoon, the villagers of Yongfu village were surprised to find another group of people coming from the village entrance. Looking closely, wasn't it Zhao Zhu and his son? Since Gu Yundong was holding an annual party, everyone here naturally had to be present. Although Zhao Zhu and the Shi couple were not in the workshop, they helped her manage the orchard. They were invited along with the helpers they found. There were more than 10 of them in total. Because they had received the news in advance, all of them were in high spirits and could not wait. They had never heard of such an event, but there was a feast that they didn't have to pay for. Who wouldn't be willing to come? They didn't know that there would be New Year presents. In any case, they had to come if there was food. Gu Yundong felt that since everyone was working for the Gu family, they could take this opportunity to get to know each other and prevent conflicts from arising among themselves. That would be troublesome. Later, Zhuangzi and the others returned on the ox cart. Not only them, but also Jiang Bao and the old doctor. Xiao Qingyuan was not around, so Gu Yundong had to help take care of his people, right? As for the shop assistants and shopkeepers in the prefectural city, they were too far away and there was nothing she could do. However, Gu Yundong had prepared large red packets for these people and would distribute them after the new year. The people in the village watched as they went to the Gu family workshop in waves. They were already so envious that they lost their temper. In any case, many people were surrounding the workshop and trying their best to look inside, especially some children. Seeing that the tables were already set, Gu Yundong got someone to bring a lot of melon seeds and peanuts for them to eat first. When a child ran in, she also gave him a handful. Seeing that there were more and more children, she was afraid that they would bump into something, so she simply picked up a cloth bag and handed it to Yunshu and Yuanji, asking them to carry it and distribute the stuff to the children. This lively atmosphere was even more noisy than the New Year. Finally, the time for the annual party that everyone was looking forward to arrived. Everyone at the 15 tables was sitting upright. Before the dishes were served, Gu Yundong walked to the front and began to speak. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 947, Gu Yundong's speech. First of all, I want to thank everyone here for working diligently over the past year. Many things have happened. When the prefectural city opened for business, there was a shortage of stock. It was everyone who worked overtime to meet the demand. Manager Tong was assassinated and remained unconscious for a long time. It was also everyone who did their job in an orderly manner. Gu Yundong did not expect that one day, she would stand in front of everybody and say such emotional words like a leader. However, these people had really moved her. They were hardworking, simple, passionate, and motivated. They were really a very cute group of people. Hence, whether it was the annual party or feast, she felt that they deserved it. Whether it's the Gu family's workshop or the orchard, it's the result of everyone's joint efforts. In the past year, the workshop has increased from 50 to 100 people, the orchard has increased from 80 acres to 180 acres, and the shop has been opened from the county city to the prefectural city. All of this couldn't have been done without everyone present. You have all contributed. You're very good. Someone couldn't help but whimper. Boss, don't say that. You've helped us even more. You gave us such a high salary. If we don't work hard, will we still be human? That's right, boss. If it weren't for you, my house would still be a straw hut. I wouldn't even have a warm bed. That's right. If I didn't work at the Gu family's workshop, I wouldn't have been able to get a wife. Yes. Since I'm working here, my daughter's dowry has been gathered. Boss Gu was too good. In the past, when they worked outside, no one had affirmed their work like this. Not to mention thanking them, it was already good enough if they were paid in time. At this moment, they were actually thanked by their boss. They felt as if they had eaten honey. Gu Dajiang looked at his daughter with incomparable pride. He felt warm inside. Yundong was too outstanding. Gu Yundong was stunned to see them crying. Then she laughed. All right, I won't say anything else. I know that everyone is waiting for a feast. Serve the dishes. As soon as she finished speaking, there was a burst of cheers. Immediately after, someone brought the food over. In the countryside, the dishes were all served in big pots and bowls. The Gu family's feast was a real feast. Most of them were meat. As soon as the food was served, the workers pounced on it like wolves and tigers. Each of them picked up 2 pieces of meat, and the bottom was quickly revealed. On the other hand, Gu Yundong's table was much more refined. Gu Dajiang drank with Chen Liang. Both of them were slow-witted. They could drink for a long time after filling a glass. Bian Han's leg was still injured and he couldn't drink, so he chatted with him. Madame Yang and Gu Yunke were the happiest. They loved this kind of liveliness the most. When they were almost done eating and there were only 2 or 3 dishes left, Gu Yundong stood up and walked forward. Everyone's stomachs were already full and their movements had slowed down. Hence, most of them saw Gu Yundong's actions and found it strange. Is it time to deliver the New Year goods? I saw it just now. 2 large carts were pushed in. Unfortunately, there was a cloth covering it so I couldn't see what was inside. In any case, there's definitely meat. Manager Tong brought back a lot of pork this morning. I heard that there was meat and cloth last year. There are so many people this year. I wonder if there are more. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 948. Surprise at the annual party. Gu Yundong coughed lightly and the buzzing below immediately stopped. Gu Yundong said, I know. Everyone is looking forward to the New Year presents. They will definitely be distributed this year. However, before they are distributed, there will be a surprise for everyone. Surprise? Everyone's eyes widened. Some of the bolder ones who had drunk a little hurriedly stood up and asked, Boss Gu, what surprise? Is there more food tomorrow after today? You wish, someone couldn't help but scold. Gu Yundong also smiled. It's not good to have fish and meat every day. The surprise I'm talking about is this. As she spoke, she glanced at Tong Shuetao, who immediately handed over a wooden box. Everyone looked confused. A wooden box? Could it be that there was something good inside? However, the wooden box did not look big or heavy. What was inside? While everyone was guessing, Gu Yundong had already spoken. There are notes inside. There are words written inside. Now it's up to your luck. Whoever draws the note with the first, second, and third prizes will be rewarded. Wow, there was an uproar below. A lucky draw? There was actually a lucky draw? This was really a surprise, a huge surprise. All right, now Shuetao will carry the box to every table. You just have to sit in your seats. When the time comes, you just have to reach in and pull out a note. There are a total of 15 rewards this time. 2 for the first prize, 5 for the second prize, and 8 for the third prize. With that, Tong Shuitao carried the wooden box to the first table. The first person was stunned for a moment until someone pushed him. He suddenly came back to his senses and quickly reached in to take out a note. The second person rubbed his hands, closed his eyes, and muttered, "Bless me for winning, winning, winning." Then, with an expression that said he was ready to die, he reached his hand in. The people behind also looked like they were praying to God and Buddha, hoping that they would win. Even if they couldn't win the first prize, they could at least win the second or third prizes. Everyone drew a note, but no one opened it first. It was as if they would be lucky if they did it late. Even when Tong Shuitao returned to Gu Yundong's side, the people below did not stop buzzing. Take a look at yours and see if you won any prizes. Why don't you look at yours? Yours first, then mine. Come on. Gu Yundong waited for a long time but did not see these people open the note. She immediately held her forehead. It's getting late. Are you sure you won't open the note until tomorrow? If that's the case, I'll leave. No, well look right away. The people below finally couldn't hold it in anymore and quickly opened the note to read. Then, voices sounded one after another. Hey, let me see. What are these words? I don't know him either. Ask Zhuangzi. He can read. Someone took the note to Zhuangzi, who was nearby. Zhuangzi narrowed his eyes and glanced at the expectant person. He sighed and said, "These words are thank you for participating." That person was a little confused. What does it mean? It means you didn't win the lottery. Ah, the person immediately wailed and slapped his hands hard. Bad hands. Why can't you even get the third prize? Gu Yundong saw that many people couldn't read and did not know what it meant. She immediately explained, "It's okay if you don't know the words on the paper. Count them. If it's 4 words, you don't win the lottery. If it's 2 words, you do. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 949. What's the prize? As soon as Gu Yundong finished speaking, someone jumped up. I won. I won. Although he couldn't read, he knew how to count. Immediately after, voices rose and fell in the crowd. I got it too. I got it too. When most people saw the words in their hands, they sighed. Then, they shifted their gazes and looked enviously at the people who had won the lottery. Gu Yundong said, "Winners, please come up first." A few people in the crowd walked forward excitedly. There were 15 people. 4 were women and the rest were all men. After all, the percentage of male workers was relatively large. They held the notes tightly in their hands. Their faces were slightly red from excitement, and their eyes were strangely bright. They handed the notes to Tongan and asked him to tell them the prize they had won. After all, they could not read. It just so happened that a woman and a man won the first prize. The woman was from the neighboring village. It was said that her family was in trouble, and her 4 children were crying for food. The oldest was only 11 years old. The man in the family was not in good health, so he could only do some simple work. Later on, this woman entered the Gu family's workshop and got paid. Only then did her family's life gradually improve. She did not expect her luck to be so good that she won the first prize. Someone said softly, "Mrs. Sun's bitter life has finally come to an end. Ever since she entered the Gu family's workshop, her luck has also come." Gu Yundong thought that Mrs. Sun would definitely like this prize. As for the other first prize winner, he was from Yongfu village. His family background was all right. The second prize was given to a woman and 4 men. One of them was Zhou, and another 2 were from the neighboring villages. The remaining man and woman were from Yongfu village. The remaining 2 women and 6 men won the third prizes. Some were from Yongfu village and some were from the neighboring villages. These 15 people were all very excited. Even someone as steady as Zhou clenched his fists tightly. Gu Yundong got someone to bring everything up. Next, let me tell you what the prizes are. She lifted the cloth on the first pile, revealing what lay beneath. This is the third prize. There's not much. I hope you like it. Everyone leaned forward and saw boxes on the ground. Inside were cinnamon, red dates, peanuts, melon seeds, and other snacks. Everyone could not help but widen their eyes. This was quite a lot. This was enough to entertain guests for the new year. Moreover, there were many things that they could not bear to buy during the Lunar New Year. Not to mention, there were 2 pots of wine. Judging from the logo, this wine seemed to be brewed by the Tao family in the county city. It was not that kind of cheap wine. Anyway, it was completely different from what they were drinking now. They had never even touched it. Many people present could not help but swallow their saliva. The 8 people who won the prizes were overjoyed and looked at the gift boxes eagerly. This box looked good too. Yundong distributed the items one by one. The 8 of them thanked her profusely. When they received the food boxes, they walked back to their original positions in satisfaction. The people at the same table immediately surrounded someone. They wanted to reach out to eat the things in the gift box, but he slapped them away. "What are you doing? This is what I have to bring back. I still have to show it to my wife. Don't think about eating it and don't mess it up. Look at how stingy you are." The person beside him snorted and continued to look ahead. There were so many delicious food for the 3rd prize. He wondered what the 2nd and 1st prizes were. He was so looking forward to it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 950, 2nd prize. The people sitting below were all very curious and urged him. Yundong did not keep them in suspense. She got someone to remove the cloth on the 2nd pile. Soon, many boxes were revealed below. Everyone was speechless. Why were they all in boxes? Could it be that they were also peanuts, red dates, or something, but there were more portions? This is the 2nd prize. 1 set of cutlery for each person. Although it was called a set, it was actually filled to the brim with a huge box. There were at least 4 sets of bowls, plates, chopsticks, spoons, and cups. There was also a small casserole and a kettle. There were also 2 pots of wine beside it. "Wow!" the people below exclaimed, their eyes wide open. There were so many pots and pans, and they were brand new and shiny. Most of the people here still had holes in their bowls. Sometimes, they would cut their lips when eating porridge. But even so, they could not bear to throw the bowls away or change them. At this moment, the boss actually offered a whole set. Wasn't this too much? These things were not cheap at all. The men and women who had won the 2nd prize were so excited that their cheeks turned red. They stared at the boxes. Yundong said, "These things are a little heavy. If it's not easy for you to carry them, you can hire someone to help you bring them back after the annual party. It's easy to carry. We're very strong. We're not afraid of heavy lifting," someone immediately replied. The others couldn't help but laugh, but they all nodded, even the woman. What a joke. They could not wait to pounce on the pile of cutlery and touch it properly. How could they wait until the end of the annual party? They could not wait to carry it home and hide it now so that others would not covet their prizes. The others looked like they wanted to split it up on the spot. The corners of Yundong's mouth twitched. She did not care anymore and asked them to go forward and get one for themselves. These things were quite heavy. In addition, the wooden box containing the cutlery was not light either. If she distributed them one by one, she would probably die of exhaustion. However, the people who won the prize were not afraid of getting tired at all. They went forward and squatted on the ground. They carefully touched it first and then began to whisper to each other, "This bowl is really flat. It's smooth to the touch. It's not rough at all. If I take it back, I won't even be able to bear to use it. Look at these chopsticks. There are even carvings on the top. It's not cheap. So much. It's not cheap at all." The bowls that Yundong bought were all clay bowls that were suitable for them. She had originally considered porcelain bowls, but she was afraid that if they were given out, no one would use them and they would only be locked up. That would be meaningless. However, even if they were just clay bowls, the quality was very good. "Hey, are you done? If you've seen enough, come down quickly. We're still waiting for the 1st prize. Don't delay others." The people below couldn't take it anymore. These 2nd prize winners were simply too detestable. Not only did they receive the award, but they also had to show off in front of the audience. They even pointed their butts at the audience. The audience simply wanted to rush up and beat them to death. Only then did they cough lightly and stop discussing. They quickly picked up their boxes. But it was really quite heavy. Therefore, other than the few men who carried it down one by one, the woman was in a difficult position. In the end, it was Tong Shuitao who helped her carry it to her own seat. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 951. First prize. After receiving the second prize, only the two people who had drawn the first prize were left. The two of them became inexplicably nervous. It was such a cold day, but their palms were drenched in sweat. Yundong asked someone to remove the last piece of cloth. Everyone felt that the last pile was especially big. They thought that there would definitely be a lot of prizes. As expected, as soon as the cloth was lifted, everyone's eyes widened. This time, the prize wasn't contained in a box because it really couldn't fit in. Yundong said, "This is the first prize. There's a 10-caddy quilt, a mattress, a mat, a tent, and a pillow. Each person has 2 sets of these. There are also 2 pots of wine and a bag of tea leaves." Wow! A loud exclamation suddenly erupted from below. Everyone's eyes widened. A 10-caddy quilt? There were also other things, and there were actually 2 sets? They were so jealous that their eyes turned red. They looked at the 2 people who had won the first prize and wished they could swap places with them. Compared to the third and second prizes, this first prize was really generous. For example, most of the quilts in their families were only 5 caddies. At most, they were only 8 caddies. 10 caddies. It looked big and brand new. It would definitely be very warm if it covered them. In such weather, it was no different from sending charcoal in the snow. They wanted it very much. Many people subconsciously reached out their hands. Some even went up directly. If Yundong had not been standing there, they would have touched the prize. These things were not cheap. Not to mention the quilt, even the mattress was thicker than the hard blanket they had used for a few years. In that case, they could be counted as 4 quilts. Jealousy. Jealousy had changed them beyond recognition. Bad hands, bad hands. Why didn't they get the first prize? Why? Mrs. Sun, who had won the first prize, had reddened eyes and almost cried. It was true. What a thick quilt that contained 10 caddies of cotton. Her family was already in a difficult situation. There were only 2 thin blankets at home, one for her and her husband and one for the children. In the winter, they could only cover all their clothes with them, but even so, they would often wake up in the middle of the night from the cold. Originally, when she entered the Gu family workshop this year, she finally had some money saved. She planned to buy some cotton after her salary was paid, so that she could stuff the blanket and make it thicker. Because of this, she did not even buy any New Year goods. She did not expect her luck to be so good that she directly drew 2 quilts. That was great. With 2 such thick quilts, her husband and she could have one and her children could have the other. Finally, the family could sleep soundly. Mrs. Sun could no longer hold back her tears. Yundong was stunned for a moment. "What's wrong, Mrs. Sun? Don't you like the quilts? If you don't like them, you can ask someone else if they're willing to exchange them with you, or, no, I like them very much. Thank you. Thank you, boss." Mrs. Sun hurriedly said, "I'm just too happy." The people below laughed. "Boss, your prize is in her heart." "That's right. Boss, you know us too well." Only then did Yundong feel relieved. She said to Mrs. Sun, "There are a lot of things, and they're very heavy. Can I get someone to carry them back for you later?" Yes, thank you." Mrs. Sun was so happy that she could not say anything. Not only him, but the other man who had also won the first prize was also very excited. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 952. New Year's goods for everyone. He didn't lack quilts, but he really didn't have one that weighed 10 caddies. These quilts were especially beautiful. Coincidentally, his daughter was about to get married. This quilt would be a great honor for her as a dowry, and the color was festive. And that wine and tea leaves were all good things. What should he do? He could not bear to take them out to drink on his daughter's wedding day. However, he quickly said to Gu Yundong, "Boss, thank you so much." Gu Yundong waved her hand. "Since you both like them, I'm relieved. Leave the things here first. When you get back, you can get someone to help carry them back." "Sure thing." The two of them did not touch it. After all, they could not bear to. Their hands were too rough. What if they broke it? However, when they returned to their seats, the people around them surrounded them. All of them were very enthusiastic and said that they wanted to help carry the prizes home. In fact, they wanted to take a closer look and touch the prizes. There was a lot of noise below. They were too happy about winning the prize. Whether it was the first, second, or third prizes, they were all envious. Initially, Gu Yundong had thought that the first prize could be a cow or a donkey. After all, many companies in the modern era had cars for annual party prizes. Later on, she thought about it and decided to forget it. Hers was just a small workshop, and it was the first annual party. What would she do in the future if she were to give away cows and donkeys now? Therefore, after pondering for a while, she decided to give them something practical. Judging from their reactions, they should be very satisfied. Alright, the lottery is over. Next, everyone will have a share of the New Year goods. As soon as Gu Yundong spoke, the people below instantly fell silent. As soon as they heard about the New Year goods, everyone immediately sat up straight. After all, these were really in their hands and had nothing to do with others, so there was no need to be envious. Therefore, getting the New Year goods was more important. Soon, Tong An and Tong Ping pushed the cart over. It was filled with meat, and everyone's eyes lit up instantly. Even though they had just finished eating a big meal, they could not help but swallow hard. Several ways to cook pork flashed across their minds. 2 caddies of meat for each person. Everyone, don't be anxious. Everyone has a share. Gu Yundong led the Gu family and pieces of pork. Everyone was distributed. Even the 2 little fellows, Yunshu and Yunke, were helping excitedly. They swung their legs upside down and handed the meat to the villagers. After the meat was distributed, the cloth was given away. White sugar followed, and the last was pastries. There were a total of 4 items, and everyone's hands were filled with them. Everyone was very excited and discussed animatedly. They did not have to buy those things during the New Year and saved a lot of money. Gu Yundong waited for them to finish their discussion before continuing. The New Year's goods have been distributed. Finally, it's this month's salary. Tong Shuitao carried up another basket. It was really because most people were given copper coins, so she had no choice but to use the basket. Gu Yundong took a brush and paper and an account book. She sat behind a table and said to everyone, "Now, come up one by one. You can go back after receiving the salary. It's been hard on everyone this year. Continue to work hard next year and strive to earn more money." "Okay." The voices below were exceptionally loud, and everyone was very excited. Gu Yundong nodded in satisfaction and opened the account book. "Come up when you hear your name. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 953. More surprise? Gu Yundong quickly recited, "Su Huar." Here. Gu Yundong had an impression of her. Last year, she was also there when the short-term workers received the New Year's goods. When they arrived, Gu Yundong took the string of copper coins from Tong Shuitao and handed it to her. Su Huar bowed. "Thank you, boss." Then she took the copper coins and walked to the side. Gu Yundong ticked her name. Then she started to call the second person. Just as she was handing out copper coins to the second person, Su Huar, who was beside her, suddenly exclaimed, "Boss, you gave an extra 100 copper coins." Everyone looked over in unison, but Gu Yundong was not surprised. "It's the new year. Take these 100 copper coins as a red packet for everyone. Everyone has it. You can buy New Year goods with it." 100 copper coins was not much. It could be considered the year-end bonus. Everyone had worked hard for an entire year. On the last day, they still had to celebrate. When the people behind heard this, They were overjoyed. They did not expect that when the workshop closed for the holiday, there would be a meal gathering, a lucky draw, and a New Year's gift. In the end, there was even a red packet. The surprises came one after another, making them a little dizzy and unable to find the north. These things were common to modern companies, but in this era, they were unique. But to Gu Yundong, these extra rewards did not cost much. In total, it was about 50 to 60 taels. However, this would make everyone happy. In the future, they would be more loyal to the Gu family and have a greater sense of belonging to the Gu family. Moreover, they would be able to publicize it for free. This money was very worth it. The pay was distributed one by one. Everyone could not help but count it again and again. It was not that they did not trust Gu Yundong and were afraid that they would be paid less. They just could not resist the desire to count the money, especially when they had an extra 100 copper coins. They felt so good. The Xing couple, the Shi couple, Zhou, and the other managers were the last to be paid. Their salaries were high, so they were directly given silver. Everyone was a little envious when they saw this. They thought that if they worked harder, they would be able to touch silver when they became managers in the future. However, none of these people left after receiving the money. Gu Yundong found it strange. Then she saw that everyone was busy. The tables were cleared, the stools were cleared, and the women were tidying up the pots and pans and cleaning the ground. Gu Yundong immediately smiled. Whether it was New Year goods or red packets, they were indeed worth it. In just a short while, the workshop returned to its original state. It was clean. The tables and chairs had all been returned. Everyone stood in front of Gu Yundong again with the New Year goods in their hands. They waved at Gu Yundong. "Boss, we wish you a happy New Year in advance. We'll take our leave first." Gu Yundong waved her hand. "Happy New Year to you too. See you next year." Only then did everyone turn around and leave. The weather outside was very cold and dark, but the people who came out of the workshop were all overjoyed and warm. The families of the people from the neighboring villages who lived further away came to pick them up. Mrs. Sun's husband was also here. Although he was not in good health, it was fine for him to go out. At this moment, he saw Mrs. Sun carrying a large pile of things in her hand. There were actually quilts. Her husband's face was filled with shock as he hurriedly went up to her. Mrs. Sun was very happy to see him. She said with a face full of joy, "Husband, we drew the lottery today. I won the first prize. Look, there are 2 big quilts and beddings, and these, if you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 954, New Year Misses. Sun's husband was stunned. He subconsciously took a quilt and it, unable to come back to his senses. The people beside her had already started talking at once. "Your wife is lucky. You don't know that there were only 2 people who won this prize. Your wife was one of them. This quilt weighs 5 kilograms. It's so thick." "It's thick. It's indeed thick." He nodded blankly. Mrs. Sun raised the New Year goods again. These were also given by the boss. "We don't have to buy them for the new year." Someone at the side shouted, "Let's go back first. It's already so late. Let's not stand here anymore. Let's go." Gu Yundong gave a few lanterns to the people living in the neighboring villages and asked them to go back together in case they could not see the road. However, it did not matter to them whether they had lanterns or not. The road was so wide that they could walk as they pleased. It was even more convenient for those from the local village. Many people were still waiting outside. Soon, the lively crowd dispersed. Gu Yundong led his parents and siblings back to the Gu house. The door of the workshop was closed. Next, they just had to prepare for the new year in peace. When they reached home, Gu Yundong took out a few red packets and gave one to the Tong family, the Lu family, and Shui Rong. Everyone thanked her and happily accepted it. When Gu Yundong returned to her room, she wrote a letter to Xiao Qingyuan and told him in detail about today's annual party. Now that they could not see each other, they could only contact each other through letters. Unfortunately, he couldn't be at home during the new year. She recalled that last year, Xiao Qingyuan was alone at home. Later, he was called over by Yunxu to set off firecrackers and have New Year's Eve dinner with the Gu family. This year, only Ah Go and the auntie who cooked were in the Xiao family. Gu Yundong also gave them red packets on behalf of Xiao Qingyuan. The next day, the incident at the Gu family workshop's annual party swept through Yongfu village and the neighboring villages like a violent wind. Everyone was envious when they heard that everyone had New Year's goods and a few big awards. Thus, a new round of inquiring about whether the workshop was recruiting people began again. Unfortunately, Gu Yundong was not recruiting for the time being. Even if she wanted to recruit, she had to expand the workshop first. In the following days, the Gu family began to prepare for the new year. They cleaned the house, made tofu, killed chickens and fish, and made dumplings. Everything was warm. On New Year's Eve, the family gathered together with smiles on their faces. Gu Yundong recalled last year. At that time, her father had not been found, and she did not know where eldest Aunt Gu was. Yuanji was suffering in old Gus' house. Now, apart from Uncle Gu, her family was finally reunited. Gu Yundong believed that they would be able to find younger uncle sooner or later. This was her first wish for the new year. The dinner was very sumptuous. After eating, everyone went to set off firecrackers. Since Xiao Qingyun wasn't around, Gu Dajiang was the one who lit the firecrackers. Gu Yundong held the little girl in her arms and listened to the crackling sounds. She looked at Yunshu and Yuanji jumping around and could not help but smile. After the firecrackers were released, Yunshu and Yuanji ran in to move the fireworks out. The two of them were bold enough to light the fireworks themselves. The fireworks rushed into the sky with a bang and exploded. The people in the village looked up one after another. The children's voices were especially cheerful. The crowing of chickens and barking of dogs made the night in Yongfu village seem like a busy city. After the fireworks ended, fireworks exploded in the sky on the other side. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 955. Gu Yundong is also a junior who is doted on. The Gu family could not help but turn their heads and look in the direction of the fireworks. Yunshu's eyes lit up. She jumped and said, "It's Niu Dawn house. It must be his house that set off the fireworks." Gu Yundong smiled and nodded. It was indeed in the direction of Chen Liang's house. It seemed that the Chen family had earned a lot of money this year and was extravagant. After New Year's Eve, it would be New Year's Day the next day. It was different from last year. Last year, Gu Yundong could only give out red packets. The only red packet that was given to her came from Xiao Qingyuan. She had placed it in a box and kept it in the space. This year, when Gu Yundong woke up, she received red packets from her parents, aunt and father. Looking at the red packets in front of her, Gu Yundong's eyes burned. This was the first time in many years that she had received a red packet from her family and elders. Gu Yundong felt that her life was complete. She put away the complicated and sour feeling in her heart and reached out to take them. "Thank you, father and mother. Thank you, eldest aunt and uncle. Happy New Year." Gu Dajiang patted her head. "Happy New Year. I hope you'll be healthy and safe in the new year. Be happy every day." As he spoke, he felt a little reluctant. Gu Dajiang had a feeling that this year might be Yundong's last year receiving red packets as an unmarried girl. Next year, she might even have to bring Xiao Qingyuan along. Thinking about it, he started to dislike Xiao Qingyuan again. Fortunately, Xiao Qingyuan wasn't present this year. Otherwise, he would definitely receive Gu Dajiang's angry glare. Immediately after, Gu Dajiang gave a few more red packets to the younger ones. This time, it was not Gu Yundong's turn to give away red packets. She was also a junior now who had parents, aunts, and uncles to dote on her. After Yunshu, Yunke, and the other children received the red packets, they ran out to play with their friends. Not long after, they brought a group of children in to pay New Year greetings. The Gu family had prepared a lot of sweets, sunflower seeds, and snacks. When the children were here, none of them returned empty-handed. Their clothes and pockets were filled. On the second day of the Lunar New Year, most of the villagers started to visit their relatives. The relatives of the Gu family were all at home, so there was no need to travel around. However, there were many people who came to visit. The Gu family stayed at home to entertain the guests. On the third day of the Lunar New Year, the whole family went up the mountain to visit Bien Mulan. It was Bien Han's first time back. It was inconvenient for him in a wheelchair. It was not easy to walk up the mountain, so he could only be carried by a few people. When he saw Bien Mulan's tombstone, he couldn't help but cry. Everyone present felt terrible. They were living a good life now, but Bien Mulan couldn't enjoy it. After crying for a while, the Bien family calmed down a little and went down the mountain. On the fourth day of the Lunar New Year, Gu Yundong and his family went to Qin Wenzheng's house to visit him. On the fifth day of the Lunar New Year, Gu Yundong went to the Lu residence again. Lu Wei was not around and went out to play. However, Lu Yi was at home. He had a good relationship with Yunxu and Yuanji and insisted that they stay for the night. On the sixth and seventh day of the new year, Gu Yundong went to take a look at other people's houses. On the eighth day of the new year, the workshop reopened and all the workers returned. Gu Yundong looked at their flushed faces. This meant that they all celebrated the new year in happiness. Sure enough, after the workshop started, everyone worked even harder. However, Xiao Qingyuan hadn't returned yet. He had sent a few letters back, saying that everything was going smoothly. Although Gu Yundong was looking forward to his return, she was also very busy. After all, her father would be taking the imperial examination at the beginning of next month. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible.